Logan Reed pressed his forehead against the steering wheel of his rusted truck. Emma's hospital bill crumpled in his shaking hand. 48 hours until eviction, 72 until her medication ran out. Outside the luxury hotel, where he'd just stopped an armed robbery, the woman he'd saved stood watching him through the rain, her wheelchair gleaming under streetlights, her expression unreadable. She rolled closer, knocked on his window, and spoke 5 words that would destroy everything he thought he knew about survival. "I need you to marry me." If you want to see how a desperate father and a ruthless billionaire collide in the most dangerous deal of their lives, stay until the end, and hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The rain hammered Logan Reed's truck like fists demanding entry. He sat parked 3 blocks from Emma's school, engine off to save gas, watching the dashboard clock tick closer to pickup time. His daughter would be waiting by the front office again, backpack too heavy for her small shoulders, probably wearing that worried expression she tried to hide whenever other kids asked why her dad was always late. Logan rubbed his face hard enough to hurt. The hospital bill sat on the passenger seat where he'd thrown it 20 minutes ago. The number at the bottom circled in red ink by some collection agency that didn't care his 7-year-old had a heart condition. $42,000. He made $11 an hour at the garage when Martinez actually had work for him. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Probably another creditor. They'd been calling every hour since last Tuesday. The truck's gas gauge sat just above empty. Logan calculated routes in his head. School to the free clinic for Emma's medication pickup, clinic back to the garage for his evening shift, garage to the grocery store parking lot where they'd been sleeping the past 9 days since the landlord changed the locks. He could make it work if he didn't hit traffic. He started the engine. It coughed twice before catching. Emma stood exactly where he expected, under the school's front awning, watching the other kids get picked up by parents in clean cars. She spotted his truck, and her face lit up the way it always did, like he wasn't failing her every single day. "Hi, Daddy." She climbed in carefully, protecting her backpack. "Mrs. Chen said you forgot to sign my permission slip again." "I'll do it tonight." "Sweetheart, promise." "That's what you said yesterday." Logan pulled into traffic without responding because she was right, and they both knew it. He'd been saying a lot of things lately that didn't happen. Next week, he'd have more hours. Next month, they'd get a new place. Next year, everything would be better. Emma pulled out her homework folder, already working on spelling words, even though the truck's suspension made her handwriting shake across the page. She was so damn smart it hurt to watch sometimes. Top of her class despite everything, despite him. "Dad, are we still sleeping in the truck tonight?" His hands tightened on the wheel. "Just a few more days. I've got some money coming in." "From where?" "The garage. Martinez said he's got a big job starting Monday." "Well," Emma nodded but didn't look convinced. She was 7 years old and already learning not to believe him. That knowledge sat in Logan's chest like broken glass. They hit traffic near downtown. Logan cursed under his breath and checked the gas gauge again. The clinic closed at 7. If they didn't make it in time, Emma would miss her dose. If she missed her dose, her heart could... He cut off the thought before it finished forming. "Can we listen to music?" Emma asked. "Radio's busted, remember? We could sing." "I don't feel like singing, Em." She went quiet. Logan immediately felt like garbage. His kid wanted to sing, and he just shut her down because he was drowning and couldn't figure out how to stop pulling her under with him. "Actually, yeah, let's sing. What do you want?" "Yeah." Emma's face brightened. "The alphabet one, where we make it silly, Mom." So they sang the alphabet song and made every letter sound ridiculous until Emma was giggling and Logan almost forgot the gas gauge and the hospital bill and the fact that they were currently homeless. Almost. The clinic parking lot was packed. Logan circled twice before finding a spot near the back. He killed the engine and looked at Emma. "I need you to wait here while I run in and grab your medicine. 10 minutes tops. Lock the doors after me." "I always do. And if anyone... Don't talk to strangers. Don't open the door. Don't leave the truck. I know, Dad." Logan kissed her forehead and climbed out. The rain had let up, but the wind cut straight through his jacket. He jogged across the parking lot, already running through what he'd say to the pharmacy tech if they asked about the overdue balance. Maybe he could pay half now and the rest next week. Maybe they'd just give him the medication anyway, since it was for a kid. Maybe he was fooling himself. The clinic lobby smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. Logan signed in at the desk and took a number. 37 people ahead of him. The clock on the wall said 6:40. He sat down and tried not to think. Logan Reed? He blinked. A nurse stood at the pharmacy window, reading from a clipboard. He'd zoned out so hard he'd missed them calling the first time. Here, sorry. He walked up to the window. The pharmacy tech was new, younger than the usual staff, already looking tired despite the early hour. She pulled up his account on the computer and her expression shifted into something practiced and sympathetic. Mr. Reed, I'm showing an outstanding balance of $943 on your account. We can't dispense medication until... I know, I'm working on it. Can I pay half now? Our policy requires, she's 7 years old and she's got a heart condition. I'll have the rest by Friday. I understand, but do you? Do you actually understand what happens if she misses her medication? The tech's expression hardened. Sir, I don't make the policy. If you can't pay the balance, you'll need to speak with our billing department. They're the ones who sent me to collections. Then I can't help you, say. Logan stared at her, feeling everything inside him wind tighter and tighter. He wanted to shout. He wanted to slam his fist on the counter. He wanted to explain that he'd worked 70 hours last week, and it still wasn't enough, and he was so tired his bones ached. And his kid was sitting in a truck in a parking lot doing homework because they didn't have a home anymore. Instead, he said, please. The tech looked away. I'm sorry. Next patient. Logan walked back outside in a fog. His hands were shaking. He couldn't tell if it was from anger or fear or just exhaustion. Emma saw him coming and unlocked the passenger door, her face already anxious. Did they have it? Not yet. We'll try again tomorrow. But I'm supposed to take it tonight. I know, baby, I know. See, he started driving without a clear destination. Couldn't go back to the garage. Martinez would ask questions Logan didn't want to answer. Couldn't go to the grocery store lot yet because security didn't like people parking before 9. Couldn't. A woman stepped into the crosswalk directly in front of his truck. Logan slammed the brakes. Emma's seatbelt locked. The truck screeched to a stop 3 feet from the woman, who stood frozen in the middle of the street, staring at them with wide eyes. She was young, maybe 30, dressed in an expensive coat that probably cost more than Logan made in 6 months. And she was in a wheelchair, one hand still on this wheel like she'd just pushed herself into traffic. Jesus Christ. Logan threw the truck in park and jumped out. Are you okay? I didn't see you. I'm fine. Her voice was cold, controlled. I wasn't paying attention. You rolled straight into the street. I said I'm fine. Logan looked around. They were in front of the Grand Sterling Hotel, one of those places where doormen wore white gloves and people paid $1,000 a night for rooms. A few pedestrians had stopped to stare, but nobody seemed inclined to help. Do you need me to call someone? Logan asked. No. The woman started to wheel herself backward, out of the crosswalk. Thank you. Something about her voice made Logan pause. It wasn't just cold, it was empty, like she'd stopped caring whether she got hit. Hey, are you sure you're... The sound of running footsteps cut him off. Logan turned and saw a man sprinting toward them from the hotel entrance, his face twisted with rage. He had a gun. Everything happened very fast. The man raised the weapon. The woman in the wheelchair gasped. Logan moved without thinking, putting himself between them. He heard Emma scream his name from inside the truck. Give me the bag! The gunman was young, maybe 20, eyes wild with something chemical. Give me the fucking bag! The woman clutched a leather purse to her chest. I don't... Now! Logan raised his hand slowly. Hey, nobody needs to get hurt here. Shut up! The gun swung toward Logan's face. This isn't your business. You're right, it's not. But there's a kid in that truck behind me and you're scaring her, so maybe we can all just calm down. The gunman's hand was shaking badly. His finger rested on the trigger. Logan's entire world narrowed to that finger and how much pressure it would take to end everything. Behind him, the woman said quietly, Take it, the bag. Take it. She held out the purse. The The gunman grabbed it and ran, disappearing into an alley between buildings. The whole encounter had lasted maybe 40 seconds. Logan's legs suddenly felt like water. He sat down hard on the curb, breathing in gasps, his heart trying to break through his ribs. The woman wheeled closer. "You shouldn't have done that." "Probably not. He could have killed you." "Yeah, Logan put his head in his hands. "I noticed." They sat in silence for a moment. Logan could hear Emma crying inside the truck. He needed to go to her, but his legs wouldn't cooperate yet. "What's your name?" the woman asked. "Logan." "I'm Victoria." She paused. "Thank you, Logan. Don't mention it." That bag had $40,000 in it. Cash. Logan's head snapped up. "What?" "I was bringing it to someone. Now it's gone because you decided to play hero." "I didn't." Logan stood up fast, suddenly angry. "You know what? You're welcome. Next time I'll let him shoot you." He started back toward his truck. Emma had stopped crying, but her face was pale, frightened. He needed to get her out of here, find someplace quiet where he could explain what happened without... Wait. Victoria had wheeled after him. Up close, Logan could see she was beautiful in a severe way, like a knife. Her dark hair was pulled back tight and her eyes were the color of steel. "I need your contact information," she said, "for the police report." "I didn't get a good look at his face." "Neither did I, but they'll want your statement anyway." Logan pulled out his phone, which was nearly dead, and recited his number. Victoria typed it into her own phone, which probably cost more than Logan's entire truck. "Where do you live?" she asked. "Why does that matter?" "The police will need an address." Logan hesitated too long. Victoria's expression shifted slightly, like she'd just figured something out. "I see," she said quietly. "You don't see anything. Your daughter is in the truck." "So?" "It's 6:50 at night and she's doing homework in a vehicle that looks like it's been parked here for a while. We're fine." Victoria studied him with an intensity that made Logan want to leave immediately. She saw too much. People with money always did. They looked at you and calculated everything you'd lost. "I have a proposition for you," Victoria said. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity. It's business." A hotel security guard was approaching from across the street, speaking into a radio. Logan needed to move before someone started asking Emma questions about where they lived. "Thanks for the offer, but I'm good." He opened the truck door. "Come on, Em, we're leaving." Emma climbed across to the driver's seat without arguing. She'd gotten good at reading when adults were about to cause problems. "Logan," Victoria's voice stopped him one more time. "I'm serious. I need something, and you need money. We can help each other." "I don't even know you." "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The Sterling Hotel, room 2847. If you show up, I'll explain everything. If you don't, I'll assume you're not interested." "I'm not interested now." $40,000, Victoria said. "That's how much was in the bag that's currently gone because of you. Come tomorrow and I'll give you twice that amount just for listening to my proposal." Logan stared at her. "You're insane." "Probably. But I'm also serious." She handed him a business card through the truck window. 10 a.m. Don't be late." She wheeled away before Logan could respond, disappearing through the hotel's golden doors like she'd never been there at all. Logan looked at the card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. Victoria Hale, CEO, Hale Technologies. A downtown address that probably overlooked the entire city. Emma leaned against his arm. "Who was that lady?" "Nobody, sweetheart." "She seemed important." "Yeah, she did." Logan started the truck and pulled away from the curb. In his rear-view mirror, he could see police cars arriving at the hotel, lights flashing red and blue across wet pavement. He kept driving until they disappeared. They ended up at the grocery store lot earlier than planned. Logan parked in the back corner, away from the lights, and helped Emma set up their makeshift bed in the truck's extended cab. She'd gotten efficient about it. 2 blankets from the shelter downtown, her backpack for a pillow, her stuffed dinosaur named Rex tucked under one arm. "I'm hungry," Emma said. "I've got granola bars in the glove box." "We had granola bars for breakfast." "I know what." Emma accepted the bar without complaining because she was better than he deserved. She ate slowly, making it last, while Logan stared at Victoria Hale's business card in the dome light. $80,000 just to listen. It was a scam, obviously. Women like Victoria Hale didn't hand out money to strangers. She probably wanted something illegal or dangerous or both. People didn't offer that kind of cash unless the job required you to do something you'd regret. But $42,000 would clear Emma's hospital debt. Another 20 could get them into an actual apartment, somewhere with heat and a door that locked. The rest could go into savings for the next emergency, because there was always a next emergency. Emma had fallen asleep against his shoulder, Rex clutched to her chest. She looked so small. Logan had been 25 when her mom left, too young and too stupid to know what he was doing. He'd promised himself he'd figure it out. Give Emma the life she deserved. Be the kind of father who didn't let his kids sleep in trucks and miss medication doses. 7 years later, and he was still failing. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Logan almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Mr. Reed? A woman's voice, professional. This is Amanda Chen calling from Sterling Medical Group. I'm showing you missed your daughter's prescription pickup this evening. I was there. Your tech wouldn't give it to me because of the outstanding balance. I'm aware. That's actually why I'm calling. A pause. Your account balance has been cleared in full. You can pick up Emma's medication anytime tomorrow. Logan sat up straighter. What? An anonymous donor paid off your balance about 30 minutes ago. All of it, including the hospital bills. You're current with our office, Mr. Reed. That's not possible. I'm looking at the transaction right now. $42,317. Paid by certified check. The world tilted. Logan looked at the business card in his hand, at the hotel across the parking lot where lights blazed in 1,000 windows. Who was the donor? That information is confidential, but they specifically requested that Emma's medication be available for immediate pickup. Our pharmacy opens at 7 a.m. if you'd like to come by before the morning rush. Amanda Chen said something else, but Logan wasn't listening anymore. He ended the call and stared at the hotel. Victoria Hale had paid Emma's medical bills. All of them. Before Logan had even decided whether to show up tomorrow. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like a hook sliding into his chest, pulling tight. Emma stirred against him. Dad? Who was that? Nobody, baby. Go back to sleep. But Logan didn't sleep. He sat in the dark truck, holding his daughter, watching the Sterling Hotel glow like a monument to a world that had never wanted people like him inside it. Somewhere up there, behind bulletproof glass and locked doors, Victoria Hale was probably making another phone call, destroying another life, buying and selling people like they were assets on a spreadsheet. And tomorrow at 10 a.m., Logan would walk through those golden doors and find out exactly what she wanted from him. Because that's what desperate men did. They took the hook. They ignored every warning sign screaming at them to walk away. They told themselves maybe this time would be different. They lied to themselves right up until the moment the trap closed around their throat. Logan held Emma closer and tried not to think about what he was about to do. The Sterling Hotel lobby was designed to make poor people feel poor. Logan figured that out within 10 seconds of walking through the door. Everything was marble and gold and massive flower arrangements that probably cost more than his truck. Women in heels clicked across polished floors. Men in suits talked on phones using words like acquisition and market positioning. Nobody looked at Logan directly, but he felt their eyes cataloging his worn jacket, his scuffed boots, his entire existence. The front desk clerk smiled at him with her teeth only. Can I help you? I'm here to see Victoria Hale, room 2847. The smile turned genuine, which somehow made it worse. Ms. Hale is expecting you. Take the east elevators to the 28th floor. Someone will meet you there. Logan nodded and walked toward the elevators before his nerve could fail. Emma was at her friend Jasmine's place for the morning, safe and fed, and nowhere near whatever mess Logan was about to walk into. He'd picked up her medication at 7 a.m. like the clinic promised. The pharmacist had handed over the bottle without asking for payment. The relief had been so intense, Logan nearly threw up in the parking lot. Now he was here, about to find out the price. The elevator opened on the 28th floor into a hallway that looked like it belonged in a museum. A woman stood waiting, mid-40s, dressed in black, her expression professionally blank. Mr. Reed, follow me. She led him down the hall to a suite at the end. The door opened before they reached it. Victoria Hale sat in her wheelchair just inside, wearing a gray suit that probably cost $5,000. Her hair was pulled back the same severe way as yesterday. Her eyes tracked Logan like a scientist studying an interesting specimen. "Thank you, Margaret. That will be all." The woman in black disappeared. The door closed. Victoria gestured to a chair positioned across from her near floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Sit." Logan sat. The chair was more comfortable than any bed he'd slept in during the past year. "You paid Emma's medical bills," he said. "I did." "Why?" "Because I needed you to show up this morning, and I suspected you wouldn't unless I demonstrated good faith." Logan's jaw tightened. "That's not good faith. That's manipulation." "Yes." Victoria folded her hands in her lap, perfectly calm. "It is. I could walk out right now." "You could, but you won't." "Pretty confident." "Well, I paid $42,000 for your attention, Mr. Reed. I'm confident I'll get it." Logan wanted to argue, but she was right. He wasn't walking away. Not when Emma finally had her medication. Not when there might be more money coming that could actually change their lives. Victoria wheeled closer to the window. "I'll be direct because neither of us has time to waste. I need to get married. The marriage needs to appear legitimate for exactly 62 days. After that, we'll divorce and go our separate ways. In exchange, I'll pay you $200,000. Silence filled the room. Outside, the city stretched in every direction, indifferent and massive. "You're insane," Logan said finally. "That's the second time you've said that to me." "Because it's true. You can't just buy a husband." "I'm not buying a husband. I'm hiring someone to perform a temporary role. There's a difference." "No, there really isn't." Victoria turned her chair to face him directly. "My company is worth $3 billion. In 4 weeks, the board of directors will vote on whether to remove me as CEO and sell the company to Strauss and Reed, our largest competitor. If they succeed, 18,000 people will lose their jobs when Strauss guts the departments they consider redundant. I will lose the company my sister and I built from nothing before she died. Everything we worked for will be destroyed." "What does that have to do with marriage?" "The board's primary argument is that I'm unstable, too young, too emotional, unable to make rational long-term decisions, especially after my accident." Victoria's expression didn't change, but something cold moved behind her eyes. "They claim I'm too damaged to run a company of this size. Marriage changes that narrative. It suggests stability, maturity. Someone in my life who provides grounding and perspective. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Welcome to corporate politics." Logan stood up and walked to the window. 28 floors down, people moved through the streets like ants. Normal people with normal problems. He'd been one of them 2 days ago. "Why me?" he asked without turning around. "Several reasons. You're not wealthy, which means you can't be accused of marrying me for status. You have a daughter, which suggests stability and family values. You have no criminal record and no scandals. And you saved my life yesterday, which provides a romantic origin story the media will love." "I didn't save your life. I just stood between you and a junkie with a gun." "Same thing. But..." Logan turned around. "You had this plan before yesterday. The whole thing. You were waiting for someone like me to show up so you could trap them in whatever scheme you're running." "No." For the first time, Victoria's voice carried something other than ice. "I was trying to disappear yesterday. I had $40,000 in that bag because I was going to give it to someone who helps people like me vanish when they're tired of fighting. Then you stopped that robbery. And I realized maybe I didn't want to disappear quite yet. Maybe I wanted to fight back instead." Deb. Logan studied her carefully. She looked tired under the makeup and expensive clothes. Tired and angry and scared. "This is a bad idea," he said. "Probably. I don't know anything about your world. You'll learn. I've got a kid. She can't be part of this circus. Emma will live in my home for the next 2 months, attend private school, and receive the best medical care available. After the marriage ends, I'll establish a trust fund that ensures her education and health care are covered through college." Logan's throat went tight. "You can't just buy people." "I'm not buying you, Mr. Reed. I'm offering you a way out of the hole you're currently in. What you do with that opportunity is entirely your choice. What happens if your board finds out the marriage is fake? Then we both lose everything, which is why it can't be fake. For 62 days, we need to be convincing. That means living together, appearing in public as a couple, making people believe this is real. Victoria paused. Can you do that? Logan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone drowning just like him. Different ocean, different reasons, but the same desperate thrashing toward air. I need to think about it, he said. You have until tonight. I need an answer by 8 p.m. Why the deadline? Because I'm running out of time, and I don't have the luxury of waiting for you to decide whether you trust me. Logan walked toward the door. His hand was on the handle when Victoria spoke again. My sister's name was Claire. She died in the car accident that put me in this chair. We were arguing about the company, about whether to sell or fight. I told her she was being weak. She told me I was being cruel. Then a truck ran a red light, and suddenly none of it mattered anymore. Victoria's voice stayed level, but her knuckles were white on the wheelchair's armrest. I don't expect you to care about any of that, but I need you to understand that this isn't just about money or power. This is about not letting the last thing Claire and I built together die because I couldn't figure out how to fight back. But Logan stood with his hand on the door, not turning around. I'm sorry about your sister, he said quietly. Don't be sorry. Just show up tonight if you're willing to help. Logan left without responding. He took the elevator down 28 floors, walked through the lobby where rich people still moved through their rich people lives, and stepped out into morning sunlight that felt too bright after the hotel's carefully controlled lighting. His phone buzzed. A text from Jasmine's mom asking if Logan could pick Emma up early. Jasmine had a dentist appointment. Logan texted back that he'd be there in 20 minutes. He drove across the city thinking about Victoria's sister, about what it meant to build something with someone you loved and then watch them die while everything you made together crumbled, about fighting when fighting seemed pointless. Emma was waiting on Jasmine's front porch, backpack already on, Rex tucked under one arm. She climbed into the truck and immediately started talking about the pancakes Jasmine's mom had made for breakfast and how they'd watched a movie about dolphins and could they maybe get a fish someday because fish were easier than dogs. Logan drove and listened and tried to imagine Emma in a private school, in a house with heat and locks that worked, with doctors who didn't check her insurance before treating her. He tried to imagine it and found that he could, very easily. Dad, you're being quiet. Just thinking, sweetheart. About what? About whether we might stay somewhere new for a little while, somewhere nice. Emma's face lit up. Like an apartment? Maybe. Would you like that? Can I have my own room? Maybe. With a bed? The question broke something in Logan's chest. Yeah, baby, with a bed. Emma went back to talking about dolphins, but Logan barely heard her. He was thinking about Victoria Hale's empty eyes and the way she'd said I was trying to disappear. He was thinking about 62 days and $200,000 and what it would feel like to give Emma a life that didn't involve sleeping in trucks. He was thinking about all the ways this could destroy them, and he was thinking about how he was going to say yes anyway, because that's what drowning people did when someone threw them a rope. They grabbed it. Even if the rope was attached to an anchor that would drag them straight to the bottom. They grabbed it, and they held on, and they prayed that maybe this time, just this once, they'd chosen right. Logan pulled into a fast food parking lot and took out his phone. He stared at Victoria's number for a long time. Emma had fallen asleep against the window, her homework forgotten in her lap. He typed out a message, deleted it, typed another one. Finally, he just wrote, I'm in. The response came back in less than 30 seconds. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Bring Emma. We have a lot to discuss. Logan put the phone down and looked at his daughter sleeping in the passenger seat of a truck that barely ran. He thought about promises he'd made to her mother before she left, about the man he'd wanted to be versus the man he'd become. He thought about what he was about to do and whether he'd ever be able to forgive himself for it. Then he started the engine and drove toward whatever came next, because there was no going back now. The trap had closed. All that remained was finding out whether he'd survive it. Victoria's estate sat 40 minutes outside the city, hidden behind iron gates and oak trees that looked older than the country itself. Logan had driven past places like this before, without really seeing them. The kind of homes that existed in a different dimension from the world where normal people struggled to pay rent. Now he was pulling his dying truck up the curved driveway while Emma pressed her face against the window, eyes wide. "Is this where she lives?" Emma whispered like they were in a library. "Looks like it. It's bigger than our whole street." Logan didn't respond because she was right, and what was there to say? He parked near the front entrance where a woman in a dark suit, Margaret, the same one from the hotel, stood waiting with the kind of expression that suggested she'd been expecting them to be late. "Mr. Reed, Emma. Ms. Hale is waiting in the east wing. If you'll follow me, ut bus." Emma grabbed Logan's hand as they walked through doors that probably weighed more than his truck. The interior made the Sterling Hotel look modest. Everything was high ceilings and expensive art, and the kind of silence that only came from having enough space that sound just disappeared into it. Margaret led them through what felt like half a mile of hallway before stopping at a set of double doors. She knocked once and pushed them open without waiting for an answer. Victoria sat behind a desk the size of a small car, reviewing papers. She looked up when they entered, and her eyes went immediately to Emma, studying her with the same analytical intensity she'd used on Logan. "You must be Emma." Emma pressed closer to Logan's leg. "Shay, do you like dinosaurs?" Emma's head tilted slightly, surprised. "Rex is a dinosaur. He's a stuffed one, though. Should some?" OCT. "I had a stuffed elephant when I was your age. His name was Mr. Trunk." Victoria's expression didn't change, but something in her voice softened fractionally. "Would you like to see your room?" "We're staying here?" Emma looked up at Logan. "Dad said maybe, but I didn't think he meant here." "For a little while," Logan said carefully. "We're helping Ms. Hale with something." "What kind of something?" Victoria wheeled out from behind the desk. "The kind that requires us to live in the same house and convince some very suspicious people that we're a real family. Can you do that, Emma?" Emma considered this with the seriousness only 7-year-olds could manage. "Like pretending?" "Exactly like pretending. I'm good at pretending. Jasmine and I pretend we're astronauts all the time. Then you'll be perfect." Victoria gestured toward the door. "Margaret will show you to your room. It has its own bathroom and a reading nook. Your father and I need to discuss some adult matters first." Emma looked at Logan for permission. He nodded and watched her follow Margaret out, already asking questions about whether the house had a backyard. When the door closed, Victoria's expression shifted back to pure business. "Sit." "But Logan sat in the same chair from yesterday. Through the windows behind Victoria's desk, he could see gardens that probably required a full-time staff to maintain. "I had my lawyers draw up the contract last night." Victoria pushed a folder across the desk. "Read it, all of it. Ask questions about anything you don't understand." Logan opened the folder. The contract was 43 pages long and written in the kind of language designed to make normal people feel stupid. He started reading anyway, going slow, trying to parse the legal terminology. The basics were simple enough. 62 days of marriage starting immediately. Logan and Emma would live in the estate. Victoria would handle all expenses, including Emma's private school enrollment, medical care, clothing, and anything else required to make the arrangement believable. In exchange, Logan would appear as Victoria's husband at public events, board meetings, and media appearances. He would learn enough about her company and personal history to convincingly answer questions. He would behave in all ways as a devoted partner. The financial terms were outlined in Section 7. $200,000 paid in full at the end of the 62 days, contingent on the board vote going in Victoria's favor, and no one discovering the arrangement was contractual. If the deception was exposed, Logan received nothing. If Victoria lost the board vote for any reason, Logan still received $50,000 as a consolation payment. Section 12 made Logan's stomach turn. It outlined consequences for breach of contract, including immediate termination of all payments and potential legal action for fraud, if Logan disclosed the arrangement to anyone outside the agreement. There was a subsection about Emma that specified she could not be told the full truth of why they were there. She needed to believe her father and Victoria were genuinely together to maintain the illusion. "You want me to lie to my daughter," Logan said without looking up from the page. "I want you to protect her from information that could get her questioned by reporters or board members. Children can't keep secrets when adults with agendas start asking questions." She's 7 years old, which is exactly why she needs to believe this is real, for her own safety. Logan kept reading. Section 15 covered the divorce process, which would be filed immediately after the board vote. Quick and clean, no assets contested, no ongoing obligations beyond the trust fund Victoria had mentioned for Emma's future. The final section was titled Physical Requirements, and Logan felt his jaw tighten as he read it. We have to share a bedroom. The house staff will talk if we don't. Gossip spreads. We can't risk it. I'm not sleeping in the same bed as you. There's a couch. You'll survive. Victoria folded her hands on the desk. The bedroom sharing is non-negotiable. So are public displays of affection when necessary. Nothing invasive, hand-holding, occasional touches, the appearance of comfort with each other. Can you manage that? Logan thought about the hospital bills that were paid, about Emma sleeping in a real bed tonight instead of a truck, about $200,000 that could actually change their lives. Yeah, he said quietly. I can manage it. Good. Sign the last page if you agree to the terms. Victoria slid a pen across the desk. Logan picked it up and stared at the signature line. This was the moment, the point where he could still walk away, take Emma back to the truck, figure out some other solution that didn't involve selling himself to a stranger. He signed his name. Victoria took the contract back without ceremony and locked it in a desk drawer. Margaret will show you to our bedroom after this. You have 3 hours to settle in before the stylist arrives. Stylist? You can't attend board meetings in a mechanic's uniform. We need you presentable. Victoria pulled out another folder. This contains everything you need to memorize about my life, the company, and our fabricated relationship history. Study it. We have our first public appearance tomorrow night at a charity gala. Tomorrow? I just signed the contract 5 seconds ago. The board vote is in 59 days. We don't have time to ease into this. Victoria opened the folder and started pointing to pages. Our story is simple. We met 3 months ago when you repaired my car after it broke down near your garage. I was impressed by your integrity when you refused to overcharge me. We started talking. The connection was immediate. I invited you to dinner. Things progressed quickly because when you know shit. Logan felt dizzy. Nobody's going to believe that. They will if we sell it correctly. The media loves stories about powerful women finding love with ordinary men. It fits their narrative about me becoming more grounded, more human. The board will hate it initially, but that's expected. They hate everything about me. What matters is that enough shareholders buy the story to question whether I'm really as unstable as the board claims. This is insane. You keep saying that because it keeps being true. Victoria's expression hardened. If you're having second thoughts, leave now. But if you stay, I need you committed. Half measures will destroy both of us. But Logan looked at her and saw the same desperation he felt every time he looked at Emma's hospital bills. Different circumstances, different tax brackets, but the same animal fear of losing everything. I'm committed, he said. Prove it. Tell me something true about yourself that isn't in any background check. The request caught Logan off guard. Why? Because if we're going to convince people we're in love, I need to know who you actually are, not the resume version, the real version. Dish, your shit. Logan sat back in his chair, thinking. Emma's mom left when Emma was 6 months old, just walked out one morning while I was at work. No note, no explanation, no forwarding address. I came home and the apartment was empty except for Emma in her crib and a single diaper bag with 3 days of formula. He paused. I called every hospital and police station in the state thinking something had happened. Took me 2 weeks to accept that she'd just left because she didn't want to be a mother anymore. Didn't want to be with me anymore. I've been terrified every day since then that I'll mess up badly enough that Emma will leave the same way when she's old enough. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. I know that you sleep in a truck to make sure Emma has food. I know you stood between her and a gunman. I know you're here right now doing something that terrifies you because it might give her a better life. Emma won't leave you, Logan. You're the only stable thing she's ever had. Something in Logan's chest loosened slightly. Your turn. Tell me something true. Nah, Ma. Victoria looked out the window at the gardens. I haven't left this estate in 4 months except for the hotel visit where we met. I conduct all my business remotely because the idea of being in public makes me physically ill. The board knows this. They're using it as evidence that I'm psychologically unfit to lead the company. They're probably right. Why did you leave that day? Why go to the hotel? Because I was tired of being afraid, and because I thought if I could just disappear, everyone would be better off. Victoria turned her chair back to face him. Then you stopped that robbery, and I realized disappearing would just let the board win. Let them destroy everything Claire and I built. I decided I'd rather fight, even if fighting means doing something as insane as fake marrying a stranger. They looked at each other across the expensive desk in the enormous room, and for a second Logan saw past the CEO and the wheelchair and the $3 billion company. He saw someone drowning just like him. "This is going to be a disaster," he said. "Probably. We're both going to regret this." "Almost certainly." Logan stood up. "Where's the bedroom?" Victoria almost smiled. Almost. "Margaret will show you. Try not to touch anything expensive." Cooperate Moshatait. Logan found Emma in a bedroom 3 times the size of any apartment he'd ever lived in. She was standing in the middle of it, turning in slow circles, trying to take it all in. There was a 4-poster bed with white curtains, a window seat with cushions, bookshelves already filled with children's books, and a desk with art supplies arranged in neat rows. "Dad," Emma's voice was small. "Is this really for me?" "Yeah, sweetheart, for a little while." "Why is Miss Hale doing this?" Logan knelt down to her level. "Because she needs our help with something important, and in exchange, she's helping us too." "Are you dating her?" The question hit harder than expected. "It's complicated." Jasmine's mom says that when grown-ups say it's complicated, it means yes, but they don't want to admit it. Jasmine's mom is a smart lady. Emma studied his face the way kids did when they were trying to figure out if adults were lying. "Do you like her?" I don't really know her yet. But we're living in her house. I know it's weird, but I need you to trust me, okay? We're safe here. You'll go to a good school and see good doctors and sleep in a real bed. That's what matters. Emma threw her arms around his neck and held on tight. Logan hugged her back and tried not to think about all the ways this could fall apart. Margaret appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Reed, the stylist is here, and Ms. Hale would like to speak with Emma about school enrollment." "Bye." Logan released Emma reluctantly. "You good, kiddo?" Emma nodded, already looking toward the bookshelves with barely contained excitement. Logan followed Margaret down more hallways to what she called the master suite. She opened the door and stepped aside. "Ms. Hale will join you in approximately 30 minutes. The stylist is waiting in the sitting room." The bedroom was twice the size of Emma's, decorated in grays and whites that managed to feel cold despite the expensive furniture. There was a massive bed, a sitting area with a couch, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. Logan noticed there was only one side of the bed that looked used. The other side was pristine, undisturbed. The sitting room connected to the bedroom through an archway. A man in his 30s sat on a sofa, surrounded by clothing bags and shoeboxes. He stood when Logan entered, looking him up and down with an expression that suggested he was calculating exactly how much work this was going to take. Logan Reed. Finally. The man extended a hand. "I'm Marcus. Victoria called me at midnight with an emergency, and honestly, looking at you, I understand why. No offense. None taken. We have approximately 2 hours to make you look like someone who belongs at a $5,000 a plate charity gala. Take off your jacket." Logan did. Marcus circled him slowly, occasionally reaching out to check measurements, making small disapproving sounds. "Your shoulders are good. That's something. Build is decent. The hair needs work, but it's fixable. Have you ever worn a suit?" "My daughter's baptism." "How long ago was that?" 7 years. Marcus closed his eyes briefly like he was praying for strength. "Okay, let's start with basics. Button-down shirts. These are Italian, cotton. They'll fit better than anything you've ever worn. Try this one." The next 90 minutes were a blur of clothing changes, measurements, Marcus telling him to stand straighter and stop slouching, and for the love of all that's holy, would you please tuck in the shirt properly? Logan tried on suits in navy and charcoal, and something Marcus called midnight blue. He tried on shoes that cost more than a month's rent. He stood still while Marcus examined him from every angle, making notes on a tablet. Better, Marcus finally declared. Not perfect, but better. The midnight blue suit for tomorrow night. These shirts for daytime events. These shoes? Yes, all 6 pairs. You'll need variety. I'm sending a barber tomorrow morning for the hair. Don't fight him on the style. He knows what he's doing. I don't need 6 pairs of shoes. You're Victoria Hale's husband now. Yes, you do. Marcus started packing everything into garment bags. A few rules. Never wear the same suit twice to company events. Always match your belt to your shoes. Keep your phone in your inside jacket pocket, not your pants. And please, for everyone's sake, learn how to tie a proper tie. YouTube has tutorials. Logan was processing this when Victoria wheeled into the sitting room. She looked at him in the midnight blue suit, and her expression shifted slightly. Not quite approval, but close. That works, she said. It should. I'm a miracle worker. Marcus handed Victoria an invoice. The rest will be delivered tomorrow. And you're welcome. Oh. After Marcus left, Victoria and Logan stood in the sitting room looking at each other in the odd afternoon light filtering through the windows. Logan felt ridiculous in the expensive suit. Victoria looked tired. Emma starts at Westridge Academy on Monday, Victoria said. They're sending someone tomorrow to do the enrollment paperwork. She'll need uniforms. She's never been to private school. She'll adapt. Children always do. Victoria paused. I told her we've been dating quietly for a while and decided to see if living together works. She seemed to accept it. She asked me if we're dating earlier. I didn't know what to say. The truth, that it's complicated. People understand complicated. Victoria rolled closer to the window. The gala tomorrow night will be difficult. Every major shareholder will be there. The board will be watching us. Expect intrusive questions. CAA. About what? How we met. How I ended up with someone like you. Whether you're after my money. Whether I've lost my mind. Victoria's reflection in the window looked grim. Just follow my lead. Stay close. Smile when appropriate. Let me handle anyone who gets aggressive. I can handle myself. I'm sure you can. But these people will try to make you feel small. They're very good at it. Don't take the bait. Logan walked over to stand beside her at the window. The garden stretched out below them, perfectly maintained, probably never used. Why don't you ever go out there? He asked. What? The gardens. You never use them. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Because Claire designed them. After the accident, being out there just reminds me that she's gone. That's why you don't leave the house at all. Among other reasons. Logan looked at her profile in the fading light. Hiding from the world isn't going to bring her back. I'm aware. So why do it? Because it's easier than facing the fact that I'm the reason she's dead. Victoria turned her chair sharply toward the door. I need to make some calls. Dinner's at 7. Don't be late. She left before Logan could respond. He stood alone in the sitting room, still wearing the expensive suit, trying to figure out what he'd just signed himself up for. Dinner was served in a dining room that could have seated 30 people. Instead, it was just Logan, Victoria, and Emma at one end of a table long enough to play basketball on. Emma kept staring at all the forks arranged beside her plate, clearly unsure which one to use. Start from the outside and work your way in, Victoria said quietly. That's the general rule. Emma picked up the outermost fork carefully. There are a lot of rules here. More than you're used to. You'll learn them. Victoria cut her food with precision. Did you look at the school materials I sent to your room? Some of them. The uniform looks weird. All uniforms look weird until you get used to them. Do you wear uniforms? I wear suits. That's basically the same thing. Emma considered this. Dad wears jeans. Your dad is going to start wearing suits too. Victoria glanced at Logan. We have a fitting scheduled Monday for more casual wear. Country club appropriate. We're joining a country club? Logan's voice came out sharper than intended. We're already members. I joined years ago for the business connections. We just need to start using the membership. Victoria took a sip of wine. There's a family tennis tournament next month. We should enter. I don't play tennis. Oh, you'll learn. I'll arrange lessons. Logan put down his fork carefully. Can I talk to you for a second? Alone? Victoria nodded to Emma. Margaret will take you back to your room. Try to be in bed by 8:30. Emma left reluctantly, looking back at them with worried eyes. Once she was gone, Logan leaned forward. You can't just rearrange our entire lives without asking. That's literally what this arrangement is. Emma doesn't need tennis lessons. She needs stability and routine and things that feel normal. Normal isn't going to sell this relationship to the shareholders. They need to see us integrated into the same social circles. That means country clubs and tennis tournaments and all the other performative nonsense wealthy people do. Logan's hands clenched under the table. She's 7 years old. She doesn't need to perform for your shareholders. She won't be performing. She'll be playing tennis and swimming and doing all the things other children at her new school do. Victoria's voice stayed level, but something hard moved behind it. I'm trying to give her opportunities, Logan. Try to see that instead of assuming everything I do has an ulterior motive. Everything you do has an ulterior motive. You bought a husband to save your company. Nothing about this is altruistic. I never claimed it was. Victoria pushed her plate away. But Emma will still benefit. Is that so terrible? Logan wanted to argue, but she had a point. Emma would benefit, already was benefiting. The bedroom, the school, the security. It was more than Logan could have provided in 10 years of working himself to death. I just want her to have a childhood, he said quietly. So do I. Victoria's expression softened fractionally. I know you think I'm some kind of monster, but I was a child once too. I remember what it felt like to grow up in a house like this, surrounded by people who saw me as an investment instead of a person. I'm not trying to do that to Emma. Then what are you trying to do? Give her the resources to become whoever she wants to be. Not who I need her to be. Not who you need her to be. Whoever she chooses. Victoria straightened in her chair. I need to review reports before tomorrow. You should get some sleep. It's going to be a long day. She wheeled out of the dining room, leaving Logan alone at the enormous table with half-finished plates of food that probably cost more than he used to spend on groceries in a month. He went to check on Emma and found her already asleep, Rex tucked under one arm, her face peaceful in a way it hadn't been in months. Logan watched her breathe for a while, trying to convince himself this was the right choice. The master bedroom felt like enemy territory. Logan changed into the pajamas Marcus had provided. Even his sleepwear was apparently not acceptable anymore, and stared at the couch Victoria had mentioned. It was expensive and uncomfortable looking. The bed was 10 feet away, massive and ridiculous. Victoria arrived 30 minutes later, wheeling herself into the bedroom without acknowledging Logan was there. She went straight into the connected bathroom and closed the door. He heard water running, cabinets opening and closing, the mechanical sound of her wheelchair on tile. When she emerged 20 minutes later, she was wearing simple sleep clothes and looked exhausted, in a way makeup had hidden earlier. She transferred from the wheelchair to the bed with practiced efficiency, pulling herself up using a bar Logan hadn't noticed installed on the bed frame. The couch pulls out, she said without looking at him. There are extra pillows in the closet. Logan pulled out the couch bed and made it up in silence. The pillow smelled like lavender and money. He lay down and stared at the ceiling, hyper-aware of Victoria 10 feet away in the actual bed. Tomorrow's going to be worse than you're imagining, Victoria said into the darkness. Thanks for the pep talk. I'm serious. These people will try to break you, make you feel like you don't belong, like you're embarrassing me just by existing. I've dealt with rich people before. I can handle it. These aren't just rich people. These are corporate sharks who view anyone outside their tax bracket as prey. Victoria shifted in the bed. When they start asking invasive questions about our relationship, don't get defensive. Don't try to prove anything. Just smile and defer to me. I'm not going to hide behind you. I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to be strategic. There's a difference. Logan rolled onto his side to face her direction. In the dim light from the windows, he could just make out her profile against the white pillows. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked. "You could have hired an actor, someone trained to play this role. Actors have agents and contracts and people who talk. I needed someone with something to lose, someone who'd keep their mouth shut because exposure would destroy them too." Victoria paused. "And I needed someone real. The board would have seen through an actor immediately. You're rough around the edges, uncomfortable in suits, completely out of your depth. That's what makes this believable. Glad my inadequacy is useful." "I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "I meant that you're genuine. People will believe you love me because you don't know how to fake emotions. That's valuable. More valuable than you realize." Logan wanted to argue, but sleep was pulling at him hard. The bed was too comfortable. The room was too quiet. Everything about this place felt designed to make him forget who he actually was. "Victoria?" he said into the darkness. "What? Well, if this works and you keep your company, what happens to Emma and me after the 62 days? You take your money and build whatever life you want. I'll ensure Emma's trust fund is substantial enough to cover college and medical expenses indefinitely. You'll never have to sleep in your truck again. And you'll go back to hiding in this house. Probably. That's depressing." "Reality usually is." Victoria's voice was already fading toward sleep. "Go to sleep, Logan. Tomorrow, everything changes." She was right about that part. Logan closed his eyes and tried not to think about what he'd signed himself up for. Tried not to think about the gala tomorrow, or the board members waiting to destroy them, or the 61 days still remaining on a contract that felt more like a prison sentence. He tried not to think about any of it, but sleep was a long time coming, and when it finally arrived, it brought dreams of drowning while expensive people watched from boats they refused to throw overboard. The barber arrived at 7 in the morning and looked personally offended by Logan's hair. He spent 45 minutes cutting and styling while making disapproving sounds and muttering about split ends. When he finally stepped back, Logan looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. The haircut was clean, professional, nothing like the uneven mess he'd been maintaining with kitchen scissors for the past 2 years. "Better," the barber announced. "Not a miracle, but better. Use the product I'm leaving. Every morning. Don't skip it." Victoria appeared in the bathroom doorway as the barber was packing his supplies. She studied Logan's new appearance with the same analytical expression she used for everything. "That works," she said. "Marcus will be pleased." "I feel ridiculous. You look like someone who belongs at a charity gala. That's what matters." Victoria wheeled closer. "We need to go over our story again. We have 2 hours before we need to leave." They spent those 2 hours in Victoria's office while she drilled him on details, where they'd met, what they'd talked about. When Logan had realized he was falling for her, she made him repeat answers until they sounded natural instead of rehearsed. Every time he hesitated or fumbled a detail, she'd make him start over. "The key is confidence," Victoria said. "If you seem uncertain, people will dig deeper. You need to believe the story when you're telling it." "How am I supposed to believe a story we both know is fake?" "By remembering what's at stake if they figure that out." Victoria pulled up photos on her tablet. "These are the board members who want me removed. Memorize their faces. Richard Strauss is the primary threat. He owns 17% of the company, and he's been organizing the hostile takeover. His wife Patricia will be at the gala. She hates me because I refused to donate to her charity foundation last year." "Why'd you refuse?" "Because the foundation is a tax shelter that does nothing except fund their vacation home in the Hamptons." Victoria swiped to the next photo. Thomas Chen owns 8%, generally neutral but easily influenced. His daughter just graduated from Westridge Academy, where Emma will be attending. Use that connection if it comes up naturally. Logan tried to absorb it all, but the faces blurred together. Rich people in expensive clothes wearing expensive smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Victoria went through 12 more board members, outlining their stakes in the company, their voting patterns, their personal vendettas. "This is insane," Logan said when she finally finished. "You expect me to remember all of this?" "I expect you to try. The ones who matter most are Strauss and his wife. They'll be hunting for weaknesses all night." Victoria closed the tablet. "Margaret will bring Emma to say goodbye before we leave. After that, it's just us against everyone else." Emma appeared 30 minutes later, already changed into pajamas even though it was barely evening. She hugged Logan tight and whispered, "You look weird in the fancy clothes." "I know, sweetheart." "Whoa, it is, Jean, but good weird, like a prince or something." Logan kissed her forehead. "Be good for Margaret, okay? We'll be back late." "Is this for Ms. Hale's work?" "Yeah, important business stuff." Emma looked at Victoria. "Will you keep my dad safe?" The question seemed to catch Victoria off guard. She paused before answering. "I'll do my best." "Promise?" "I promise." Emma seemed satisfied with that. She waved as Margaret led her away, Rex tucked under her arm. When they were gone, Victoria turned to Logan. "We should go. The car is waiting." The gala was being held at the Ashford Museum, a massive building downtown that looked like it belonged in a different century. Logan had driven past it 100 times without really seeing it. Now he was climbing out of a town car in front of the main entrance where photographers lined the red carpet and people in evening wear streamed through doors held open by staff in white gloves. Victoria transferred to her wheelchair with practiced efficiency. Logan noticed she moved differently in public. Slower, more deliberate, like she was aware of cameras tracking her every movement. "Stay close," she said quietly. "Hand on my shoulder when we're walking. It'll look protective and caring." "Oh." Logan placed his hand where she indicated. The wheelchair moved forward, and they entered the gauntlet of cameras. Flashes exploded around them. Photographers shouted Victoria's name, asking her to look their direction. A few yelled questions about Logan that he couldn't quite make out over the noise. Victoria smiled for the cameras and ignored the questions. Logan tried to do the same, but his face felt frozen. The smile probably looked fake as hell. As they made it through the press line and into the museum's main hall where the real nightmare began. The room was enormous, filled with people who looked like they'd stepped out of magazines. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings 30 feet high. Waiters circulated with champagne. A string quartet played in one corner. Everything was beautiful and cold and designed to make Logan feel exactly as out of place as he did. "Breathe," Victoria said without looking at him. "You look like you're about to run." "I am about to run." "Don't. We need to work the room. Start with the neutral parties. Build momentum before we deal with Strauss." She steered them toward a group of older couples near the silent auction tables. Logan recognized one of them from the photos. It's Thomas Chen, the board member with the Westridge Academy connection. "Victoria, darling." One of the women air-kissed near Victoria's cheek. "One Jenna Foscots. We were so surprised to hear about your marriage. You've been keeping secrets." "Not secrets, Jennifer. Just privacy." Victoria's smile was perfect. "This is my husband, Logan. Logan, this is Jennifer and Thomas Chen." "Bush Goy Sao Meshtan." Logan shook hands, trying to remember everything Victoria had told him about them. Thomas owned 8%. His daughter just graduated. His wife Jennifer sat on 3 charity boards and collected modern art. "A pleasure," Thomas said, studying Logan with open curiosity. "Victoria mentioned you're a mechanic?" "It was. I'm transitioning into business consulting now." The lie came out smoother than Logan expected. Victoria had drilled this answer into him earlier. Unemployed sounded weak, but transitioning suggested ambition. "How fascinating. What kind of consulting?" "Operational efficiency for small manufacturing firms. Victoria's been helping me develop the framework." It was complete bullshit, but Thomas nodded like it made sense. Jennifer leaned in, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "You must tell us how you two really met. The story about the broken car seems so improbable." Victoria touched Logan's hand lightly. "It was my fault, actually. I was driving one of Claire's old cars, sentimental reasons, and it died on Highway 17. Logan's garage was the nearest option. He could have charged me double given the situation, but he didn't. That integrity made an impression." "And you just swept him off his feet?" Jennifer's smile had edges. "I tried. He turned me down initially, said he didn't date clients." Victoria looked at Logan with an expression that almost seemed genuine. It took 3 weeks of convincing before he agreed to dinner. Logan picked up the thread, remembering the script they'd practiced. "I thought she was out of my league." Still do most days. How refreshingly honest. Jennifer's tone suggested she didn't find it refreshing at all. And you have a daughter, I understand? Emma, she's 7. Otsuras Oturaruski. She'll be attending Westridge in the fall, Victoria added. Thomas, I believe she'll be in some of the same programs your daughter excelled in. Thomas's expression warmed slightly. Wonderful school. Demanding but worth it. If Emma needs any guidance settling in, I'm sure Catherine would be happy to help. They talked for another 5 minutes about school and programs and all the performative garbage wealthy people discussed at events like this. Logan smiled and nodded and tried not to feel like a trained animal doing tricks for treats. When they finally moved on to another group, he exhaled hard. You did well, Victoria said quietly. I feel like a fraud. Everyone here is a fraud. You're just more honest about it. She steered toward the bar. Get me champagne yourself, too. We need to look relaxed. Logan ordered 2 glasses from a bartender who probably made more per hour than Logan used to make in a day. When he turned back, Victoria was surrounded by 3 more people he vaguely recognized from the photos. He waded back through the crowd and handed her the champagne. Logan, these are the Hendersons, Mark and Susan. They're major donors to the Children's Hospital. More handshakes, more questions, more performing. The Hendersons wanted to know about the wedding that hadn't actually happened. Victoria invented details on the fly. Small ceremony, immediate family only. They'd wanted privacy. Susan Henderson looked disappointed there were no photos to see. How romantic, she said in a tone that suggested the opposite. And you're living at Victoria's estate now? We are, Logan confirmed. It's been an adjustment, but Emma loves it. I'm sure she does. Quite the upgrade from wherever you were before. The comment landed like a slap. Victoria's hand tightened on her champagne glass, but her smile never wavered. Actually, Logan's been teaching me about living with less, Victoria said smoothly. It's easy to lose perspective when you grow up with money. Having him and Emma around has been grounding. How lovely. Susan's eyes were calculating. You must be very persuasive, Logan, to have captured Victoria's attention so completely. I think she captured mine first, Logan said. I was just smart enough not to run away. A few people nearby laughed. Susan's smile tightened, but she let it drop. They moved on after a few more minutes of small talk that felt more like an interrogation. The night continued like that for hours. Victoria would steer them toward another group, introduce Logan, and they'd perform the same dance. Questions about how they met, questions about Emma. Thinly veiled comments about Logan's background and whether he was after Victoria's money. Each conversation felt like walking through a minefield, trying not to set off the explosives buried under polite words. Logan's face hurt from smiling. His feet hurt from the expensive shoes Marcus had provided. He'd lost count of how many times he'd told the broken car story or deflected questions about why Victoria had chosen someone so completely outside her usual circle. They were near the auction tables when Richard Strauss finally appeared. Logan recognized him immediately from the photos. Mid-60s, silver hair, expensive suit that probably cost more than a decent used car. His wife Patricia stood beside him, dripping in diamonds that caught the chandelier light. Victoria. Strauss's voice was smooth and dangerous. What a surprise to see you in public. We'd begun to think you'd become a hermit. Hello, Richard. Patricia. Victoria's smile was ice. Just being selective about which events warrant my time. This one supports pediatric heart research. Very important cause. Indeed. Strauss's eyes moved to Logan. And this must be the mysterious husband we've all been hearing about. Richard Strauss. I'm on the board of Victoria's company. Ishaki Wotri Oti Desi. Logan shook his hand. The grip was firm, testing, designed to make Logan squeeze back too hard or too soft. Logan matched it exactly and watched something flicker in Strauss's expression. Logan Reed. Nice to meet you. How unexpected this all is, Patricia said, looking Logan up and down like he was livestock at auction. You're quite different from Victoria's usual type. I didn't know Victoria had a type, Logan said. Oh, she does. Ambitious, connected, from the right families. Patricia's smile was sharp. No offense, dear, but you're not exactly what we expected. None taken. Victoria's hand found Logan's and squeezed once, a warning to stay calm. Logan brings perspective I was lacking. Sometimes the right person isn't the expected person. How philosophical. Strauss sipped his drink. Tell me, Logan, what do you think of Hale Technologies? Victoria must discuss the company constantly at home. It was a trap. Logan could feel it. If he claimed to know too much, they'd question why Victoria was sharing confidential information with her mechanic husband. If he claimed to know nothing, they'd suggest he was irrelevant to her actual life. I think Victoria built something extraordinary, Logan said carefully. The specifics are beyond me, but watching how hard she fights for her employees and her vision, that I understand. Her vision. Strauss repeated the words like they tasted bad. And what vision is that? Keeping the company independent. Making sure 18,000 people don't lose their jobs to a corporate buyout designed to gut departments and maximize short-term profits. The temperature around them dropped 10 degrees. Strauss's smile vanished entirely. Patricia looked like she'd been slapped. How interesting that Victoria has shared her opinions about the board's strategy with you, Strauss said coldly. One might question whether that's appropriate. One might question whether trying to destroy a functional company to line your pockets is appropriate, Logan shot back before he could stop himself. Victoria's hand squeezed his again, harder this time. Her voice stayed level, but Logan could hear the tension beneath it. Richard, let's not turn a charity gala into a business discussion. There are better venues for that debate. Of course. Strauss's eyes were pure venom now. Though I must say, Victoria, your choice of husband raises questions about your judgment. Questions the board will certainly discuss when we vote on the company's future. Discuss whatever you'd like. My personal life is none of the board's concern. Everything about you is the board's concern when you're asking us to trust you with $3 billion and 18,000 jobs. Strauss leaned closer. Bulmas, Strauss. Marrying the help doesn't make you look stable, Victoria. It makes you look desperate. Logan felt Victoria stiffen beside him. He stepped forward slightly, putting himself between them without quite blocking Strauss. You should probably walk away now, Logan said quietly. Excuse me? You heard me. Walk away before you say something you'll regret. Are you threatening me? I'm suggesting that insulting my wife at a public event while pretending to care about corporate governance makes you look like exactly what you are. A bully in an expensive suit who's mad someone finally stood up to you. Strauss's face flushed red. Patricia grabbed his arm, pulling him back slightly. Around them, other guests had stopped talking, sensing the confrontation. We're leaving, Patricia said firmly. Richard, now. Strauss let himself be pulled away, but his parting look at Victoria promised consequences. When they were gone, Logan realized his hands were shaking. The entire room was staring at them. We need to go, Victoria said under her breath. Now. She turned her wheelchair toward the exit, and Logan followed, aware of every eye tracking their movement. The photographer outside were ready for them, cameras flashing as they emerged. Victoria ignored them all, waiting silently while the valet brought the car around. Neither of them spoke during the drive back to the estate. Victoria stared out the window at the city lights blurring past. Logan sat rigid in his seat, replaying the confrontation over and over, trying to figure out exactly how badly he'd just destroyed everything. The car pulled up to the estate. Victoria transferred to her wheelchair without waiting for help and headed straight inside. Logan followed her to the office where she wheeled behind her desk and pulled up her phone. How bad is it? Logan asked. Victoria didn't answer. She was scrolling through messages, her expression unreadable. Finally, she set the phone down. There are already 3 news articles about tonight. The photos are everywhere. Strauss is quoted saying, "My marriage proves I'm emotionally unstable and unfit to lead the company." She looked up at Logan. What were you thinking? Confronting him like that in front of everyone? He called you desperate. He basically said I was your servant. I wasn't going to just stand there and let him. Yes, you were. Victoria's voice cracked like a whip. That's exactly what you were supposed to do. Stay quiet. Let me handle it. Not turn a charity gala into a public spectacle. He was attacking you. They're always attacking me. That's the point. They want me to react emotionally so they can use it as evidence I'm unstable. And you just handed them exactly what they needed. Logan's jaw clenched. So I was supposed to let him talk to you like that? Treat you like you're crazy for marrying someone beneath you? Yes, because fighting him proves his point. Victoria slammed her hand on the desk. You don't understand these people. This isn't about right or wrong. It's about perception. And the perception now is that I married someone so volatile he can't control himself at a simple charity event. How do you think the board will interpret that? I don't care how the board interprets it. He had no right. He has every right because he owns 17% of my company and he's orchestrating a hostile takeover. Victoria's eyes were blazing now. This isn't about fairness, Logan. It's about survival. And you just made surviving significantly harder. They stared at each other across the desk, both breathing hard. Logan wanted to apologize, but the words stuck in his throat because he wasn't actually sorry. Strauss had deserved worse than what he'd gotten. I'm going to bed, Victoria said finally, her voice drained of emotion. We'll discuss damage control in the morning, said. She wheeled out of the office, leaving Logan standing alone in the too-big room, surrounded by expensive things he'd never wanted. He waited until he heard the bedroom door close before heading upstairs himself. Emma was asleep when he checked on her. Logan stood in her doorway watching her breathe, wondering if he'd just destroyed the one chance he'd had to give her a stable life. The contract was clear. If the deception was exposed or if Victoria lost the board vote, Logan got nothing, and he'd just given Strauss ammunition to use against them. The master bedroom was dark when Logan entered. Victoria was already in bed, turned away from the couch. Logan changed in the bathroom and made up his pull-out bed in silence. I'm sorry, he said into the darkness. Go to sleep, Logan. I mean it. I wasn't trying to sabotage anything. I know what you were trying to do. You were trying to defend me. It was noble and stupid and completely counterproductive. Victoria's voice was tired. But it's done now. We'll have to deal with the fallout. Logan lay down and stared at the ceiling. Outside, he could hear wind moving through the estate's trees. The house creaked and settled around them like something alive. For what it's worth, Victoria said quietly, no one has ever stood up for me like that before. It was stupid, but it was also... She paused. Thank you. You're welcome. Don't do it again. I can't promise that. Victoria made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been something else. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be worse than today. She was right about that too. Logan woke up to his phone exploding with notifications. Text messages from numbers he didn't recognize. Emails from reporters requesting interviews. Social media mentions that kept climbing. He opened one of the news articles and felt his stomach drop. The headline read, Tech Billionaire's Blue-Collar Husband Attacks Board Member at Charity Gala. Below it was a photo of Logan stepping towards Strauss, his face twisted in anger, looking exactly like the volatile, unstable person Strauss had accused him of being. The article detailed the confrontation, painting Logan as aggressive and Victoria as embarrassingly attached to someone clearly unsuited to her world. There were quotes from unnamed sources questioning Victoria's judgment and suggesting the marriage was evidence of declining mental health. Logan found Victoria already in her office, laptop open, phone pressed to her ear. She gestured for him to sit down while she finished the call. I understand the optics aren't ideal, David, but the situation is manageable. No, I'm not issuing a public apology. Because I didn't do anything wrong. My husband defended me when a board member was being inappropriate. That's what husbands do. She paused, listening. I'll see you at the office Monday. We'll discuss it then. She ended the call and looked at Logan with an expression he couldn't quite read. That was David Chen, our general counsel. He's concerned the board will use last night as justification to accelerate the vote. How bad is it? Bad, but not fatal. Yet. Victoria turned her laptop around so Logan could see the screen. It was an internal company message board where employees were discussing the gala. Some of them think you're a hero for standing up to Strauss. Others think you're proof I've lost perspective. It's split about 60-40 in our favor, saw it. 60-40 isn't great. It's better than I expected. Victoria closed the laptop. The board meeting is Wednesday. That's 4 days. We need to control the narrative before then. How? By showing them we're a real couple. Not just some impulsive mistake I made. Victoria pulled up a calendar on her tablet. We have the Westridge Academy tour tomorrow for Emma's enrollment. The parents will be there. Several of them are shareholders. We need to look stable. United. Monday is the office. You're coming with me, meeting employees, showing you understand what the company does. Tuesday, we have a scheduled interview with Business Weekly magazine. They'll ask about last night. We give them a story that humanizes the situation. Logan's head was spinning. This is insane. This is damage control. It's not enough to be married on paper. We need to make them believe it. Victoria wheeled closer. And that means selling the relationship better than we did last night. Less defending my honor, more subtle supportiveness. Can you do that? I don't know. Can you stop treating me like a prop you're positioning for photographs? Victoria flinched like he'd slapped her. That's not what I'm doing. Isn't it? You've scheduled my entire week without asking me. You're telling me how to act, what to say, when to smile. I'm not a person to you. I'm a chess piece you're moving around your board. That's not fair. Neither is this entire arrangement, but here we are. Logan stood up. I'm going to check on Emma. When you want to discuss things like actual partners instead of a CEO delegating tasks, let me know. He left before Victoria could respond. Emma was awake, sitting in her window seat reading one of the books from her shelf. She looked up when Logan entered. Margaret said you had a fight with someone last night. Logan sat down beside her. Not a fight exactly, just a disagreement. About what? Adult stuff? Company business? Emma studied his face. Are you and Ms. Hale okay? Yeah, sweetheart, we're okay. Are you sure? Because you look sad. Logan pulled her into a hug. I'm not sad, just tired. Last night was a lot. Do we have to leave? The question caught him off guard. What? No, why would you think that? Because when grown-ups fight, sometimes people leave. That's what happened with Mom. Logan's chest tightened. That's not going to happen, Em. I promise. We're staying right here. You promise? I promise. Emma seemed satisfied with that. She went back to her book while Logan sat beside her, watching sunlight move across the expensive carpet, trying to figure out how to keep a promise he wasn't sure he could actually keep. Victoria found him an hour later. She knocked on Emma's doorframe even though the door was open. Can we talk? Logan followed her to the library down the hall, a room he hadn't been in yet. It was all dark wood and leather furniture and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with books that looked like they'd never been opened. Victoria positioned her wheelchair near the window and was quiet for a long moment before speaking. You're right. I've been treating you like an employee instead of a partner. That's not fair, and it's not what we agreed to. She looked at him directly. I'm not good at this. At trusting people. At letting anyone close enough to actually affect me. The last person I trusted completely was Claire, and she's gone. So I default to control because it feels safer than vulnerability. Logan sat down in one of the leather chairs. I get that. But you can't control your way through this. These people will see right through it if we're just following a script. Then what do you suggest? I suggest we stop pretending this is a business transaction and start acting like two people who actually give a damn whether the other one survives this. Logan leaned forward. You want the board to believe we're real? Then we need to be real. Not perfect. Not polished. Just real. Victoria considered this. Real is messy. Yeah, it is. Real means I don't get to control everything. That's kind of the point. Victoria's hands twisted in her lap, a rare break in her usual composure. What if I don't know how to do that anymore? What if I've been controlling everything for so long that I've forgotten how to just be a person instead of a CEO? Then you learn, same way I'm learning how to navigate your world without embarrassing you at charity galas. You didn't embarrass me last night. Victoria's voice was quiet. You defended me. That's different. Strauss didn't seem to think so. Strauss is an ass. His opinion doesn't matter. Victoria wheeled closer. What matters is that the board votes in our favor in 58 days. Everything else is secondary. Logan looked at her and saw the fear hiding behind the corporate mask. She wasn't just scared of losing the company. She was terrified of letting anyone see how completely falling apart she actually was. Okay, he said, we'll do it your way, but with one condition. But ich persuades. What condition? Mars. Ich course. You stop hiding from Emma and me. We're living in your house, eating at your table, sharing your life. You can't treat us like strangers you're tolerating for business reasons. If this is going to work, we need to actually try to be something that looks like a family, even if it's fake. Victoria was quiet for so long Logan thought she might refuse. Then she nodded slowly. Okay, we'll try itam. Starting with tonight. No working through dinner, no disappearing to your office the second we're done eating. You sit with us and we talk about something that isn't the company or the board or damage control. What are we supposed to talk about? I don't know. Normal things. What Emma did today. What made you laugh last week? Anything that doesn't involve hostile takeovers. Victoria looked terrified by the prospect, but she agreed. Fine. Dinner at 7. I'll try. Petit. She wheeled toward the door, but Logan stopped her with a question. Why Claire's car? The one that broke down when we supposedly met. Why were you really driving it that day? Victoria's hand paused on the wheel. Because it still smells like her. Sometimes when everything feels impossible, I sit in that car and pretend she's still here telling me what to do. She looked back at Logan. Stupid, right? No, it's not stupid. She'd hate what I've become. This scared, broken thing that can't even leave the house without having a panic attack. Maybe, or maybe she'd understand that you're doing the best you can with what you have left. Victoria's eyes shone, but she blinked it back before any tears could fall. 7 o'clock. Don't be late. She left before Logan could respond. He sat in the library for a while longer, surrounded by books no one read and furniture no one used, thinking about what it meant to build a fake family that might accidentally become something real. At 7 o'clock exactly, they gathered in the dining room. Victoria had kept her word. No laptop, no phone. Just her sitting at the table while Margaret served dinner. Emma talked about the books she'd been reading and whether dinosaurs could swim. Victoria listened with what looked like genuine interest, asking questions that made Emma light up. After Emma went to bed, Logan and Victoria sat in the living room with coffee. Neither of them was drinking. The silence wasn't comfortable exactly, but it wasn't hostile either. The Westridge tour is at 10 tomorrow, Victoria said. We should take Emma together. United front. Sounds good. And Logan? Victoria set down her untouched coffee. Thank you for pushing back. I needed someone to do that. You're welcome. That aren't ochi shanti skitantem. They sat there as evening faded into night. Not quite friends, not quite partners, but something in between that neither of them knew how to name yet. Outside, the gardens Claire had designed sat empty in the moonlight, waiting for someone brave enough to walk through them again. The Westridge Academy campus looked like something out of a movie about rich kids. Manicured lawns, brick buildings with ivy crawling up the walls. Parents arriving in cars that cost more than most houses. Emma pressed her face against the town car window, eyes wide, clutching Rex so tight Logan worried she might rip him. It's really big, she whispered. You'll do great, sweetheart, Logan said, though his own stomach was churning. Victoria sat across from them, reviewing something on her tablet. She'd been quiet during the drive, her face unreadable. When the car stopped in front of the administration building, she finally looked up. Let me do most of the talking during the tour. The admissions director is Linda Morrison. Her husband owns 6% of Hale Technologies. She'll be evaluating us as much as she's evaluating Emma. Everything's a performance with you people, Logan muttered. Yes, it is. Victoria's tone wasn't defensive, just tired. But Emma gets into a good school regardless, so maybe it's a performance worth having. They climbed out and headed inside. The lobby smelled like expensive wood polish and old money. A woman in her 50s approached with the kind of smile that probably took years of practice to perfect. Ms. Hale, what a pleasure. And this must be Emma. Linda Morrison's eyes swept over Emma's dress, one Margaret had picked out specifically for this meeting, with clear approval. Then her gaze moved to Logan and he watched her recalculate everything. And Mr. Reed, we've been reading about you. I bet you have, Logan said. Dia. Victoria shot him a warning look before taking over smoothly. We're excited to learn more about Westridge. Emma's exceptionally bright, but she's been in public school until now. We want to make sure this environment will challenge her appropriately. Of course. Follow me. Linda led them through hallways lined with photos of graduating classes going back decades. Every student in those photos looked the same. Clean, privileged, destined for Ivy League schools and corner offices. Emma walked between Logan and Victoria's wheelchair, her hand gripping Logan's tighter with every step. The first stop was a classroom where third graders were working on math problems. The teacher paused her lesson to wave at them through the window. Every kid in that room wore the same uniform, sat at the same expensive desks, probably went home to houses like Victoria's. Our curriculum is accelerated, Linda explained. We expect students to perform at least one grade level above public school standards. Does Emma have experience with advanced mathematics? She's been teaching herself multiplication using dinosaur models, Victoria said before Logan could answer. She's particularly strong in pattern recognition and spatial reasoning. Linda's eyebrows rose slightly. How creative. They moved through the science lab, the library, the art studio. Everything was pristine and well-funded, and exactly the kind of place Logan had always imagined his daughter attending someday when life magically got better. Except now it was real, and he felt like an imposter walking these halls in his expensive suit, pretending to belong. Emma stayed quiet through most of it, nodding when Linda asked her questions, answering in one or two word responses. Logan could see her shutting down, overwhelmed by everything, and his chest tightened. "Could we have a moment, Bozis?" Logan asked as they reached the courtyard. "Emma looks like she could use some air." Linda hesitated, but Victoria nodded. "We'll wait here. Take your time." "No." Logan led Emma to a bench under a tree where they could see the playground equipment in the distance. She sat down heavily, still clutching Rex. "I don't think I like it here," she said quietly. "Why not? Everyone looks perfect, like they never mess anything up." Logan put his arm around her. "Nobody's perfect, sweetheart. Those kids probably mess up all the time. They just hide it better because they've had more practice. What if I can't keep up? Papa. Then we'll get you help. Tutors, extra practice, whatever you need." Logan tilted her chin up so she'd look at him. "You're the smartest kid I know. This place should be worried about whether they're good enough for you, not the other way around." Emma managed a small smile. "You have to say that. You're my dad." I have to say it because it's true." Logan kissed her forehead. "And if you really hate it here, we'll figure something else out. This isn't a prison sentence. Ms. Hale spent a lot of money on the uniforms already. Ms. Hale has plenty of money. She'll survive." Logan stood up and offered his hand. "Come on, let's go finish this tour and then we'll get ice cream after. Deal?" "Deal." They walked back to where Victoria and Linda were waiting. Victoria's eyes met Logan's and he saw the question there. He gave a small nod and watched her shoulders relax slightly. The rest of the tour went smoother. Emma started asking questions about the science lab equipment and the library collection. Linda warmed up incrementally, especially when Emma demonstrated she actually could do multiplication in her head by calculating how many books were on a shelf based on the number of rows. They ended up in Linda's office signing enrollment papers. Logan's hand hesitated over the signature line when he saw the tuition cost, $48,000 per year. Victoria reached over and squeezed his hand once before he signed. "Emma will start Monday, Linda said, collecting the paperwork. "We'll have her uniform ready for pickup tomorrow, and Ms. Hale, Mr. Reed, I have to say I'm impressed with how well you're handling everything. The media attention must be challenging." "We're managing," Victoria said carefully. "I'm sure, though I have to ask, and forgive me for being direct, but given the current board situation, is Emma's enrollment secure regardless of how the vote goes?" The room temperature dropped. Logan felt Victoria stiffen beside him. "The vote will go in my favor, Victoria said evenly. "But even if it didn't, Emma's enrollment is guaranteed. I've established a trust specifically for her education." "How thorough." Linda's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "My husband mentioned there's some concern about the stability of your marriage affecting your judgment. I wanted to assure myself that Emma won't be caught in the middle of anything unfortunate." Logan opened his mouth, but Victoria's hand on his arm stopped him. "Linda, with all due respect, my marriage is none of your husband's concern, or the board's, or yours." Victoria's voice stayed level, but steel ran through it. "Emma is enrolled. The tuition is paid. If you have concerns about our family situation, I suggest you address them directly, instead of hiding behind concern for a 7-year-old's well-being." Linda's face flushed. "I didn't mean to offend." "Yes, you did, but it's fine. We're done here." Victoria turned her wheelchair toward the door. "Come on, Emma. Logan, we have other appointments." They made it to the car before any of them spoke. Emma climbed in first, looking worried. Logan waited until they were pulling away before turning to Victoria. "You okay?" "Fine." "You don't look fine." "Well, because I'm tired of people questioning every decision I make." Victoria stared out the window. "Linda Morrison's husband is voting with Strauss to remove me. She was fishing for information to bring back to him. The whole tour was just intelligence gathering disguised as school enrollment. That's messed up. That's corporate politics." Victoria rubbed her temples. "Everything is leverage. Emma's enrollment, our marriage. What you said at the gala, they'll use all of it to paint me as unstable." Emma leaned forward from her seat. "What's unstable mean?" "It means some people think Ms. Hale makes bad choices," Logan said carefully. "Do you think she makes bad choices?" Logan looked at Victoria, who was watching him with an unreadable expression. "No," he said finally. "I think she makes hard choices that other people don't understand." Emma seemed satisfied with that answer. She went back to looking out the window at the city passing by. Victoria's eyes stayed on Logan for a long moment before she looked away. They got ice cream like Logan promised, sitting at an outdoor cafe where people stared at Victoria's wheelchair and Logan's face, now recognizable from the gala photos, with barely concealed curiosity. Emma was oblivious, focused entirely on her chocolate cone that was melting faster than she could eat it. "The office tomorrow is going to be worse than the school tour," Victoria said quietly, while Emma wasn't listening. 18,000 employees. Most of them have seen the articles. You'll be under a microscope. I can handle it. Can you? Because if you lose your temper again, I won't. Logan met her eyes. I learned my lesson. Strauss wants me to react. I'm not giving him the satisfaction. Good. Victoria pushed her untouched ice cream around in its cup. The key is making the employees like you. If they're on our side, it puts pressure on the board. Shareholders care about employee morale. So I'm campaigning now? You've been campaigning since you signed the contract. This is just a different venue. Logan wanted to argue, but Emma returned from throwing away her napkin, saving him from saying something he'd regret. They drove back to the estate in silence. Margaret met them at the door with a message that Victoria had 3 urgent calls waiting. Victoria disappeared into her office without a word. Emma went to her room to read. Logan wandered the house aimlessly, ending up in the library again. The books on the shelves were classics. Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Austen, all first editions probably worth thousands of dollars each. He pulled down The Great Gatsby and opened to a random page. Claire loved that one. Logan turned to find Victoria in the doorway. She wheeled inside and positioned herself near the window where afternoon light cut across the floor in geometric patterns. She used to say Gatsby was the quintessential American tragedy, Victoria continued. A man who reinvented himself to win back a woman who wasn't worth the effort. She always argued that Daisy was the real villain of the story. What did you think? I thought they were all villains. Gatsby for building his entire identity around someone else's approval. Daisy for being too weak to choose anything for herself. Tom for being a bully who got away with it because of his money. Victoria ran her finger along the spine of another book. Claire said that's why I'd never find love. Too cynical to see anything except the worst in people. Logan put the book back on the shelf. Was she right? Probably. Though she wasn't much better. She fell in love with a venture capitalist who promised her everything and delivered nothing except debt and scandal. That's actually why we were arguing the night she died. I told her she needed to cut him loose before he destroyed the company. She told me I was jealous because I'd never understood what it felt like to trust someone completely. What happened to him? The venture capitalist? He disappeared the day after the funeral, took what money he could access and vanished. Turns out he'd been embezzling from us for months. Victoria's voice stayed level, but her hands were clenched tight in her lap. So Claire died defending someone who was robbing us blind. And I'm left running a company while her ghost reminds me every day that I was right. But it doesn't matter because she's still gone. Logan sat down in the chair across from her. Logan sat. That's not your fault. Isn't it? If I'd been less critical, less controlling, if I just supported her instead of arguing, maybe she wouldn't have been so upset. Maybe she would have seen the truck coming. Or maybe a truck ran a red light and there's nothing either of you could have done to stop it. Logan leaned forward. You can't live your whole life wondering what if. It'll eat you alive. What else am I supposed to do? Figure out how to forgive yourself for still being here when she's not. Victoria's eyes shone, but she blinked it back the same way she always did. The board meeting is Wednesday. 3 days. If we lose, this all falls apart. Then we don't lose. It's not that simple. Maybe it is. Maybe you stop thinking about it like a business transaction and start thinking about it like a fight you actually want to win. Logan stood up. You've been operating like someone who's already lost, going through the motions, hiding in this house, acting like the company's already gone. But you're still here. The vote hasn't happened yet. So start acting like you plan to survive this. Victoria stared at him for a long moment. Where's this coming from? From watching you give up on yourself while demanding everyone else believe in you. Logan walked toward the door. Dinner's at 7. Try to show up like you actually want to be there, instead of like it's another obligation you're enduring. He left before she could respond. His heart was pounding. He probably just crossed a line he shouldn't have crossed, but he was tired of watching Victoria slowly disappear into her own grief while simultaneously demanding Logan perform like everything was fine. That evening, Victoria showed up to dinner 5 minutes early. She asked Emma about her favorite book and actually listened to the answer. She told a story about Claire trying to teach her to bake and burning an entire batch of cookies so badly they set off the fire alarm. Emma laughed so hard she nearly fell out of her chair. After Emma went to bed, Victoria and Logan ended up in the living room again. This time, Victoria spoke first. I've been thinking about what you said, about giving up. But I shouldn't have said it like that. It wasn't fair. No, it was accurate. Victoria looked down at her hands. After the accident, after Claire died, it felt easier to just stop fighting. Let the board win. Sell the company. Disappear somewhere nobody knew me. I was halfway to doing exactly that when you stopped that robbery. What changed? Jambosi. Honis. I saw someone willing to risk everything for a stranger. And it made me realize I wasn't even willing to risk anything for something I supposedly cared about. Victoria met his eyes. You're right. I've been operating like someone who's already lost. That stops now. What does that mean? It means Wednesday I'm going into that board meeting ready to fight. Not just survive. Actually fight. Something shifted in Victoria's expression. The first real determination Logan had seen from her. And I'm going to need you there, not as a prop, as a partner who's actually invested in the outcome. I am invested. Are you? Because sometimes it feels like you're just counting down the days until you can take your money and leave. Logan wanted to argue, but she had a point. He had been counting days. 55 left until the contract ended, and he could walk away with $200,000 and never see any of these people again. I'm invested in Emma's future, he said carefully. What about yours? What about it? What do you want, Logan, after this is over, after the 62 days end and you have your money? What life are you building? No one had asked him that question in years. Logan sat with it, trying to find an answer that wasn't just, I want to survive, or I want Emma to be okay. I want to not be terrified every time I look at a bill, he finally said. I want to wake up without calculating how many hours I need to work to keep us fed. I want to take Emma to a doctor without wondering if I can afford the copay. I want a life where one bad day doesn't destroy everything. That's baseline survival. I'm asking what you actually want. Logan laughed without humor. When you spend 7 years in survival mode, it's hard to want anything beyond that. Victoria was quiet for a moment. What if you didn't have to worry about money anymore? What would you do? I don't know. I haven't let myself think about it. Think about it now. Logan closed his eyes and tried to imagine a life where money wasn't the constant crushing weight on his chest. Maybe go back to school. I was 2 semesters away from an engineering degree when Emma's mom got pregnant. Had to drop out to work full-time. You could finish that degree with the money from this arrangement. Maybe. Not maybe. You could. 200,000 is enough to finish school and support Emma while you do it. Victoria leaned forward slightly. What else? Why does this matter to you? Because if we're going to sell this relationship to the board, I need to understand who you actually are. Not just struggling single dad. Not just the guy willing to sell 62 days of his life for money. The actual person underneath all that. Logan opened his eyes and looked at her. Really looked at her. In the dim living room light, she looked younger, less guarded, almost vulnerable. I used to build things, he said quietly. Before Emma, before everything fell apart, I designed custom engines for racing bikes. Nothing fancy, just small projects for friends. But I was good at it. I could look at a bike and see exactly what it needed to perform better. Then life happened, and I stopped building anything except excuses for why everything was falling apart. You could start building again. After this. Maybe. Stop saying maybe like you don't believe it's possible. What do you want me to say? That I'm going to take your money and suddenly become the person I was supposed to be before life beat it out of me? It doesn't work like that. It could if you let it. Logan stood up abruptly. Why do you care? This is a business transaction. You get your company, I get my money, we both move on. Stop trying to fix me like I'm another problem you need to solve. Victoria flinched like he'd hit her. I'm not trying to fix you. Then what are you doing? Trying to understand why you seem so determined to stay broken. The words hung between them like smoke. Logan wanted to leave, to walk away before this conversation went somewhere neither of them could come back from. But his feet wouldn't move. You don't know anything about being broken, he said finally. Don't I? Victoria's voice was sharp. I'm 30 years old, running a billion-dollar company from a wheelchair, hiding in a house because I can't face the world that killed my sister. I haven't been on a date in 3 years. Haven't had a friend outside of work in longer than that. My entire life is balance sheets and board meetings and trying to pretend I'm not falling apart every second of every day. Don't tell me I don't know about broken. They stared at each other across the expensive living room in the enormous house while the silence pressed down like weight. Finally, Logan sat back down. I'm sorry, he said. So am I. They sat there not talking while the night grew darker outside the windows. Eventually, Victoria spoke again, quieter this time. Wednesday is going to be brutal. The board will tear us apart looking for weaknesses. Strauss will have everything documented. The gala incident, the news articles, probably private investigators digging into your background. They'll make you feel like garbage and then vote to destroy everything I've built. So what's the plan? We go in there and we make them believe we're real. Not perfect. Not a fairy tale. Just two broken people who found each other and decided to try. Victoria looked at him. Can you do that? Logan thought about Emma sleeping upstairs in a bedroom 3 times the size of anywhere they'd lived before. About the medication she needed sitting in the cabinet without worry about payment. About 55 days left on a contract that was supposed to be simple. Yeah, he said, I can do that. Thank you. Victoria wheeled toward the hallway, but paused before leaving. For what it's worth, I think you'd be a good engineer. You see problems and fix them. That's the whole job. She disappeared down the hall before Logan could respond. He sat alone in the living room trying to remember the last time anyone had believed in him for something other than his ability to endure hardship. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Victoria drilled Logan on company statistics, board member backgrounds, shareholder voting patterns. They practiced answers to hostile questions. They rehearsed their relationship timeline until Logan could recite it in his sleep. Marcus appeared again with more suits. The barber came back to maintain the haircut Logan was starting to get used to. Emma started at Westridge on Monday. Logan dropped her off that first morning and watched her walk through the gates in her uniform, looking tiny and scared and braver than he'd ever been. When he picked her up that afternoon, she was excited, talking nonstop about her new teacher in the science lab and a girl named Sophie, who also liked dinosaurs. Tuesday morning, the Business Weekly reporter arrived at the estate. Her name was Jennifer Cross, and she had the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. She set up her recorder on the living room coffee table and smiled at Logan and Victoria like a shark smelling blood. "Thank you for agreeing to this interview," Jennifer said. "I know it's been a challenging few weeks." "We're managing," Victoria replied smoothly. "I'm sure. Though the optics of your marriage have certainly raised questions. Richard Strauss publicly suggested it indicates declining judgment. How do you respond to that?" "I'd respond that Richard Strauss has been trying to remove me as CEO since my sister died. My marriage gives him convenient ammunition, but it doesn't change the fundamental question, whether I'm capable of running Hale Technologies. The answer is yes, Tuts." Jennifer turned to Logan. "And you, Mr. Reed, you've been thrust into an unfamiliar world very quickly. How are you handling the pressure?" "By focusing on what matters," Logan said, sticking to the script they'd practiced. Victoria needed support. Emma needed stability. Everything else is just noise. Romantic. Though some shareholders have expressed concern that you're a distraction from the company's needs, that Ms. Hale's attention is divided when it should be entirely focused on corporate matters. Logan felt Victoria tense beside him but kept his voice level. Those shareholders are welcome to their opinions, but if they think Victoria is anything less than completely dedicated to Hale Technologies, they haven't been paying attention. She works 16-hour days. She knows every department, every project, every employee by name. Getting married didn't change that. It just gave her something to come home to besides spreadsheets. Jennifer's eyebrows rose slightly. "You're quite defensive of her." "I'm quite tired of people assuming she's incompetent because she fell in love with someone they consider beneath her." Logan leaned forward. "Here's what I've learned about your world in the past few weeks. Money doesn't make you smart. Success doesn't make you right. And treating everyone outside your tax bracket like they're somehow less valuable makes you exactly the kind of person who shouldn't be running companies that employ thousands of regular people just trying to survive." Victoria's hand found his and squeezed once, half warning, half approval. Jennifer was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "Well, that's certainly quotable." She looked at Victoria. "Is this how you feel as well?" "Logan speaks for himself," Victoria said carefully. "But yes, I'm tired of a board that's more interested in protecting their egos than protecting the company. Tomorrow's vote will prove whether shareholders agree with me or with Strauss. Either way, at least we'll have clarity." The interview continued for another 30 minutes. Jennifer asked about the gala, about Emma, about their plans for the future. Logan and Victoria answered together, finishing each other's sentences sometimes, presenting a united front that felt less rehearsed than it should have. When Jennifer finally left, Logan collapsed on the couch and closed his eyes. That was exhausting. "See, you did well," Victoria said. "The part about money not making people smart will probably end up as the headline. Is that good or bad?" "Honestly, I have no idea anymore." Victoria rubbed her temples. "Tomorrow's the vote. After that, we'll know if any of this mattered." Logan opened his eyes and looked at her. She looked tired and scared and trying hard not to show it. "We're going to win," he said. "You don't know that." "No, but I believe it, and you should too." Victoria managed a small smile. "When did you become an optimist?" "About 5 minutes ago. I'm trying it out." Logan sat up. "What time's the board meeting?" 2 p.m. "We need to be there by 1:30. Victoria's hands twisted in her lap. "I'm terrified." "I know." "What if we lose?" "Then we lose. And you figure out what comes next. But you'll still be here. Still breathing. Still capable of building something new." Victoria looked at him like she was trying to decide whether to believe that. "Thank you for doing this. For staying. For not running when everything got complicated." "Where would I run to?" "My truck. That option expired when you paid Emma's hospital bills. You could have left anyway. Broken the contract. I wouldn't have sued you." "Yeah, you would have." Victoria laughed despite everything. "Probably. But still. Thank you. No." They sat there as afternoon faded toward evening, not talking, just existing in the same space without pretending they needed to fill it with words. Eventually, Victoria wheeled toward the hall. "I need to review notes for tomorrow. Try to get some sleep tonight. It's going to be a long day." "VP." Logan nodded but didn't move. He sat in the living room watching shadows lengthen across the expensive furniture, thinking about tomorrow and board votes and 54 days still remaining on a contract that was supposed to be simple. Nothing about this was simple anymore, and tomorrow everything would either fall apart or somehow, impossibly, work. Logan barely slept. He lay on the pull-out couch staring at the ceiling while his mind ran through every possible disaster scenario for the board meeting. Around 3 a.m., he heard Victoria moving in the bedroom, the sound of her wheelchair on hardwood, the bathroom light clicking on. She wasn't sleeping either. Morning came too fast and too slow at the same time. Logan found Victoria already dressed in a sharp navy suit, reviewing notes at the dining table. She looked up when he entered, and he saw the fear she was trying to hide behind professional competence. "Coffee's ready," she said. "You should eat something." "Not hungry." "Eat anyway. You'll need the energy." They sat across from each other, picking at breakfast neither of them wanted. Emma came down still in her pajamas, dragging Rex behind her. She climbed into Logan's lap without asking. "Why do you both look scared?" she asked. "We're not scared, sweetheart, just thinking about work stuff." Emma looked at Victoria. "Are they going to be mean to you again?" Victoria's expression softened. "Probably, but your dad will be there. That makes it easier." "Will you be okay?" "I think so." Emma seemed to consider this seriously. Then she climbed off Logan's lap, walked around the table, and hugged Victoria. Victoria froze for a second like she didn't know what to do with the affection. Then her arms came up slowly and she hugged Emma back. "Thank you," Victoria whispered. "You're welcome." Emma pulled away and looked between them. "You should hold hands when you go in. That's what people do when they're scared. It helps." Logan and Victoria looked at each other across the table. Something passed between them that Logan couldn't quite name. "That's good advice," Victoria said. "We'll try that." Margaret drove them downtown while Logan sat beside Victoria in the back of the town car watching the city pass by. Victoria hadn't said a word since they left the estate. Her hands were clenched tight in her lap, knuckles white. "Hey," Logan said quietly, "we've got this." "You don't know that." "No, but I know you're not walking into that room alone. That counts for something." Victoria's hand moved toward his and stopped halfway. Logan closed the distance, lacing their fingers together. She held on like he was the only thing keeping her from drowning. Hale Technologies' headquarters was a glass tower downtown that probably cost more to build than Logan would make in 10 lifetimes. They rode the elevator to the executive floor in silence. Victoria's assistant was waiting when the doors opened. "They're gathering in the main conference room," she said. "Everyone's already here." "Of course they are." Victoria's voice was steady, but Logan felt her hand trembling in his. "Let's get this over with." The conference room was enormous, all glass walls and a table that could seat 30 people. 15 board members sat waiting, along with various lawyers and executives Logan didn't recognize. Richard Strauss sat at the head of the table like he already owned the place. His eyes went immediately to Logan and Victoria's joined hands, and something predatory moved across his face. "Victoria, Mr. Reed, how kind of you to grace us with your presence." Strauss gestured to seats at the opposite end of the table. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." Victoria wheeled to the indicated spot. Logan took the chair beside her, hyper-aware of every eye in the room cataloging his presence. He recognized a few faces from the gala and the news articles. Most looked openly hostile. A few seemed merely curious. "Let's begin," Strauss said. "We're here to vote on a motion to remove Victoria Hale as CEO of Hale Technologies and approve the sale of the company to Strauss and Reed Capital. Before we vote, I'd like to present evidence supporting this motion." He pressed a button and a screen descended from the ceiling. Images appeared, photos from the gala showing Logan confronting Strauss, news articles with headlines about Victoria's questionable judgment, financial reports highlighting quarterly losses, a timeline of Victoria's public appearances showing she'd barely left the estate in months. "As you can see," Strauss continued, "Ms. Hale has demonstrated a pattern of instability, reclusiveness suggesting possible mental health issues, impulsive decision-making evidenced by her sudden marriage to a man with no business experience or social standing, aggressive behavior at public events. These are not the qualities we need in a CEO during a critical growth period. Victoria sat perfectly still, her face expressionless, but Logan felt her hand gripping his tighter and tighter. Furthermore, Strauss pulled up another slide showing the company's stock price. Investor confidence has declined steadily over the past 6 months. The market is reacting to Ms. Hale's perceived instability. A sale to Strauss and Reed would restore confidence and maximize shareholder value. He went on for 20 minutes, systematically destroying Victoria's credibility. Every mistake she'd made, every public appearance she'd missed, every quarterly report that came in slightly under projections. He made it sound like the company was on the verge of collapse under her leadership. Finally, he stopped and looked directly at Victoria. "Would you like to respond before we vote?" Victoria released Logan's hand and wheeled forward slightly. When she spoke, her voice was steady. "Everything Richard presented is technically accurate but fundamentally dishonest. Yes, I've struggled with leaving the estate. I watched my sister die. I spent months in physical therapy learning to walk again. Forgive me if I needed time to process that before resuming a normal public schedule." She looked around the table. "Yes, I married Logan quickly. Because when you spend years hiding from life, finally finding someone who makes you want to stop hiding feels urgent. That's not instability. That's being human." "How convenient," Patricia Strauss interjected from beside her husband. "A blue collar. Nobody appears exactly when you need to prove you're relatable." Victoria's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice level. "Logan didn't appear. I found him. And yes, marrying him helped me reconnect with the world outside these glass towers. Helped me remember that this company isn't just about shareholder returns. It's about 18,000 people who depend on us for their livelihoods. Beautiful speech, Strauss said. But speeches don't change fundamentals. You're asking us to trust a CEO who can't handle basic public events without her husband attacking board members, who makes impulsive personal decisions that raise questions about her professional judgment, who has presided over declining investor confidence and falling stock prices. The stock price dropped because you've been spreading rumors about a hostile takeover for 6 months. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. You created the instability you're now using to justify removing me. I created investor concern by pointing out legitimate leadership issues. That's my fiduciary duty. Strauss leaned back in his chair. This vote isn't personal, Victoria. It's business. And the business case for your removal is overwhelming. Dates. Victoria looked around the table at the 15 board members who would decide her fate. Most avoided her eyes. A few looked genuinely conflicted. Thomas Chen was studying his hands like they contained answers he couldn't quite read. Logan couldn't stay quiet anymore. He stood up. Can I say something? Strauss's eyebrows rose. This is a board meeting, Mr. Reed. You're not a board member. No, I'm not. I'm just the guy who married Victoria because I was desperate, and she made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Logan ignored Victoria's sharp intake of breath. Logan ignored. You all want to know if our marriage is real? If I'm some kind of con artist after her money? Here's the truth. 3 weeks ago, I was sleeping in my truck with my daughter because we'd been evicted. I was one missed shift away from losing everything. Victoria offered me $200,000 to pretend to be her husband for 62 days. I signed the contract because I'm a desperate father who'd do anything to give his kid a stable life. The room erupted. Board members shouting questions, lawyers scrambling for their phones, Strauss leaning back with a smile of pure triumph. Victoria's face had gone white. Logan raised his voice over the chaos. But here's what Strauss isn't telling you. Yeah, the marriage started as a business arrangement, but I've spent 3 weeks living with Victoria, watching her work 16-hour days while managing chronic pain from an accident that should have killed her. Watching her build Emma's entire school enrollment and medical trust fund without asking for anything in return. Watching her fight for this company even when people like Strauss spend every waking hour trying to destroy her. He turned to face Strauss directly. You want to talk about judgment? Let's talk about yours. You're trying to sell a profitable company to line your pockets. You've been spreading lies about Victoria's competence for months. You showed up at a charity gala specifically to provoke us, then acted offended when I called you on it. That's not fiduciary duty. That's a power grab disguised as concern. Enough, Strauss snapped. You just admitted the marriage is fraudulent. That proves exactly what I've been saying about Victoria's judgment. Does it? Logan looked around the table. Because from where I'm standing, Victoria made a calculated risk to save her company. She identified someone who needed help and offered a deal that benefited both of us. That's literally what CEOs do every day. The only difference is she applied business strategy to her personal life because people like you gave her no choice. Thomas Chen spoke up for the first time. Mr. Reed, up. Are you saying you don't actually love Victoria? Logan looked at Victoria, who was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. I'm saying I signed a contract to pretend for 62 days. But somewhere between the mansion and the gala and watching Emma get excited about her new school, pretending stopped being enough. He paused. I don't know if that's love. It's only been 3 weeks, but it's real, and it matters. And it's sure as hell more honest than whatever Strauss is selling you about maximizing shareholder value by destroying 18,000 jobs. The room went silent. Victoria's eyes were shining, but she blinked the tears back before they could fall. Strauss recovered first. A touching confession, but it doesn't change the fundamentals. Victoria entered into a fraudulent marriage to manipulate the board. That alone justifies her removal. Actually, a voice spoke up from the far end of the table. David Chen, the general counsel, stood holding a folder. It doesn't. I've reviewed the company bylaws extensively. There's nothing prohibiting a CEO from entering into a contractual marriage arrangement. Unusual, certainly, but not illegal and not grounds for removal. Strauss's face flushed red. That's absurd. She lied to the board. No, she didn't. She never claimed the marriage was romantic. She simply appeared with a husband. The board assumed romantic motivations. That's not her responsibility. David looked at Victoria. Though I strongly advise against this sort of arrangement in the future. Noted, Victoria said quietly. Patricia Strauss stood up. This is ridiculous. We're really going to overlook the fact that she bought a husband like he was a car. We overlook Richard buying board votes every quarter, Thomas Chen said, also standing. At least Victoria's honest about her transactions. The room erupted again. Strauss and his allies shouting about proper governance. Other board members defending Victoria, or at least questioning whether the removal was justified. Logan sat back down, his heart pounding, not sure if he'd just saved everything or destroyed it. Victoria's hand found his under the table and held on tight. Enough! Strauss slammed his hand on the table. We're voting, now. All in favor of removing Victoria Hale as CEO and approving the sale to Strauss and Reed Capital. Raise your hand. Some of the 5 hands went up. Strauss, Patricia, and 3 board members Logan didn't recognize. Less than Strauss needed, but still enough to cause problems. All opposed? 6 hands rose. Thomas Chen, David Chen, and 4 others. Abstaining? 4 hands. The swing votes who couldn't decide or didn't want to pick sides. Strauss's smile vanished. The motion fails. Victoria Hale remains CEO. The room exploded into conversation. Some board members were already leaving, clearly disgusted. Others gathered around Victoria, offering congratulations or warnings, or both. Strauss sat frozen at the head of the table, staring at the vote count like it had personally betrayed him. Patricia leaned close to him and whispered something sharp. Strauss stood abruptly, grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door. He paused next to Logan on his way out. This isn't over, he said quietly. You may have won today, but I'll be watching. One mistake and I'll have her removed. Then I guess she better not make any mistakes, Logan replied. Strauss left. The room gradually cleared until it was just Logan, Victoria, and a few executives cleaning up paperwork. Victoria sat very still, staring at the table like she couldn't quite process what had happened. You okay? Logan asked. You told them the truth. About the contract. About everything. Yeah. Why? Because Strauss was right. We were hiding behind a lie. And watching you defend yourself alone while I sat there silent felt wrong. Logan turned to face her. I figured if we were going down, we should at least go down honest. We could have lost everything. But we didn't. Victoria looked at him with something that might have been awe or might have been terror. That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do. Runs in the family. Emma did tell us to hold hands. Psst. Victoria laughed despite everything, a real laugh that sounded rusty from disuse. We won. I can't believe we actually won. Believe it. Logan stood and offered his hand. Come on, let's go home and tell Emma you're not getting fired. They made it halfway across the lobby before the reporters swarmed them. Questions flying from every direction about the contract, the marriage, whether Logan was planning to divorce Victoria now that the board vote was over. Victoria's assistant appeared from somewhere and started physically blocking cameras while Margaret pulled the town car right up to the entrance. They collapsed into the back seat and the car pulled away from the chaos. Victoria was shaking. Logan put his arm around her shoulders without thinking, and she leaned into him like she'd been waiting for permission. That was a nightmare, she said. Yeah, but it's over. For now, Strauss will try again. Let him. You've got 54 days to prove he's wrong about everything. Logan paused. Or 54 days until the contract ends and I take my money and disappear, depending on how you want to play it. Victoria pulled away slightly and looked at him. Is that what you want, to disappear? Logan thought about the question seriously. 3 weeks ago, the answer would have been immediate. Yes, take the money and run. Build a life far away from board meetings and charity galas and people who treated him like garbage. But now Emma had friends at Westridge. He'd started imagining finishing his engineering degree, and Victoria had started feeling less like a stranger and more like someone he actually gave a damn about. I don't know what I want, he admitted. $200,000 is life-changing money, but walking away after everything we just went through feels wrong. You don't owe me anything beyond the contract. I know, but maybe that's the point. Maybe doing something because you want to instead of because you have to is what makes it matter. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. What if we renegotiated? What? The contract. What if instead of 62 days and $200,000, we tried something different? Like what? Like actually seeing if this could work. No timeline, no payment, just two people figuring out if they want to build something together. Logan's heart was beating too fast. That's terrifying. I know. What about Emma? What about her? She's happy here. She loves her school. And she asked me yesterday if you and I were going to get married for real. Victoria smiled slightly. When I said we already were married, she said she meant for real, not pretend real. Smart kid. She gets it from her dad. Oh. Logan looked out the window at the city passing by. Everything in him was screaming that this was a bad idea, that he should take his money, walk away clean, build a life that didn't involve board votes and hostile shareholders, and people who'd spend every day reminding him he didn't belong. But Emma's laugh echoed in his head, and Victoria's hand was still in his. And for the first time in 7 years, Logan could imagine a future that looked like something other than just surviving. Okay, he said quietly. Okay? Let's try it. No contract, no timeline. Just see what happens. Victoria's smile was tentative but real. Just so we're clear, I have no idea how to do this. The relationship part. I'm terrible at trusting people, and I'll probably try to control everything and push you away when things get hard. And I'm a broke mechanic with trust issues and a daughter who will always come first. I'll probably resent your money and pick fights when I feel out of place. We're a disaster waiting to happen. Absolutely. Logan squeezed her hand. But maybe that's okay. Maybe perfect isn't what either of us needs. They pulled up to the estate. Emma was waiting at the door with Margaret, still in her school uniform. She ran toward the car as they got out. Did you win? She shouted. We won, Victoria confirmed. Emma threw her arms around Victoria first, then Logan. I told you holding hands would help. You were right, Logan said. You're very smart. I know. Emma pulled back and looked between them seriously. So are you staying together for real now, or just for pretend? Logan looked at Victoria. She looked back with an expression that was half hope and half terror. For real, Logan said. If that's okay with you. Emma's face split into the biggest smile Logan had seen in years. Can we celebrate? Can we get pizza and watch a movie? A real family movie night? Victoria laughed. Yeah, we can do that. They ordered pizza and ate it in the living room instead of the formal dining room. Emma picked the movie, some animated thing about dragons that Logan had seen 40 times. They sat together on the couch, Emma between them, and for a few hours everything felt almost normal. Almost like the family they were pretending to be might actually become real. After Emma went to bed, Logan and Victoria ended up in their usual spots. Except this time when Victoria started to wheel toward the bedroom, Logan stopped her. Can we talk about what happens now? Victoria turned back. What do you mean? I mean, we just threw away the contract. We agreed to try something real, but we didn't actually define what that means. Does it need to be defined? Probably. We're both control freaks. We'll drive each other crazy if we don't set some ground rules. Victoria wheeled closer. Okay, ground rules. You first. Logan thought about it. Emma comes first, always. Before the company, before us, before everything. If you can't accept that, this won't work. I accept it, gladly. Victoria paused. My turn. I need you to understand that running this company isn't optional for me. It's how I honor Claire, how I prove her death meant something. I'll try to balance work and family better, but I can't just walk away from Hale Technologies. Whoopsies, but I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to show up for dinner and acknowledge that Emma and I exist outside of being convenient props for board meetings. Fair. Victoria's hands twisted in her lap. What about the money? You still need it for school, for Emma's future, for not sleeping in your truck. I'll figure it out. Get a job. Apply for financial aid. Do what normal people do instead of taking handouts from billionaires I'm dating. That's stupid pride talking. Maybe, but it's my pride. Let me keep it. Victoria smiled despite herself. Fine, but I'm still maintaining Emma's trust fund. That's non-negotiable. Deal. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Victoria spoke again, quieter this time. I'm scared this won't work. That I'll mess it up the way I mess up everything that matters. You didn't mess up the company. You saved it today. With your help. Well, that's how partnerships work. You save each other. Logan moved to sit beside her wheelchair. And yeah, we'll probably mess this up sometimes. Fight over stupid things. Hurt each other without meaning to. But maybe we try anyway, because the alternative is spending the rest of our lives wondering what if. Victoria reached out and touched his face gently. When did you become wise? About 5 minutes ago. I'm winging it. Us. She laughed and pulled him closer. They kissed for the first time without an audience or cameras or any reason except that they wanted to. It was tentative and a little awkward and absolutely nothing like the perfect movie moments Logan had imagined as a kid. It was better because it was real. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Logan started community college classes while working part-time at a custom garage across town. The engineering program was harder than he remembered, and balancing school with Emma and Victoria felt impossible most days. Victoria threw herself back into running the company, traveling to investor meetings and rebuilding relationships Strauss had damaged. They fought about her working too much. She fought about him being too proud to accept help. But they also had movie nights. Family dinners where Emma talked about school and dinosaurs and whether Saturn's rings were actually made of frozen water. Weekends where they ventured into the gardens Claire had designed and Victoria finally stopped seeing ghosts in every flower bed. Slowly, carefully, they built something that looked like a family. 6 months after the board meeting, Victoria walked across the estate's back lawn without her wheelchair. It took her 20 minutes to cover 100 feet, and she nearly fell twice. But Logan and Emma were there to catch her. And when she finally made it to the garden bench where Claire's favorite roses grew, she cried for the first time since the accident. A year after the contract ended, Logan graduated with his engineering degree. Victoria and Emma sat in the audience cheering louder than anyone else. The next week, Logan started his own custom engine design company with Victoria's investment, which they'd argued about, for 3 months before Logan finally accepted that sometimes letting people help you wasn't weakness. 2 years later, on a Saturday afternoon with no cameras or board members or anyone except the people who actually mattered, Logan and Victoria renewed their vows in the garden. Emma stood between them holding 2 rings, wearing a dress she'd picked out herself, beaming like she'd personally arranged the whole thing. The vows were simple. No promises of perfection or fairy tale endings, just two broken people committing to keep choosing each other even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Strauss tried twice more to remove Victoria as CEO. Both times he failed. Eventually he resigned from the board entirely, bitter and defeated. The company thrived under Victoria's leadership, expanding into new markets while maintaining the employee-focused culture she'd fought to protect. Emma grew up between two worlds, the estate with its privileges and the small apartment Logan kept because he needed somewhere that was just his when the mansion felt too big. She turned out remarkably normal, despite everything, more interested in paleontology than board meetings, more comfortable in jeans than designer dresses. On Emma's 14th birthday, Logan found Victoria in the library reading Gatsby again. She looked up when he entered. "Still think they're all villains?" he asked. "Most of them, but maybe Gatsby less than I used to." She closed the book. He built his entire life around becoming someone worthy of love. That's not villainy, that's just being human. Logan sat beside her. "You know what I learned from all this?" "What?" "That love isn't about being perfect or worthy or any of that romantic garbage they sell in movies. It's about showing up when everything's falling apart and deciding to stay anyway. It's about building something real, even when the world keeps insisting you're not supposed to fit together." "Juko os bisti I." Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. "When did you become a philosopher?" "About 5 minutes ago. I'm still winging it." They sat together in the library that used to feel like a museum, but now just felt like home. Outside, Emma was playing in the gardens with friends from school, their laughter drifting through open windows. The house that had once been empty and silent was full of noise and life, and the beautiful mess of people who'd chosen each other. It wasn't perfect. Logan still had days where he felt out of place at company events. Victoria still worked too much and struggled with letting people close. Emma still asked hard questions about her mother, who'd left, and whether that meant love was temporary. But they were together, building something that mattered, proving that sometimes the best families aren't the ones born perfect. They're the ones cobbled together from broken pieces by people brave enough to try. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything they'd needed without knowing to ask for it. Because real love, the kind worth fighting for, isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who sees you're incomplete and stays anyway. Who helps you build the missing pieces instead of demanding you show up whole. Logan had learned that lesson in a truck while drowning in debt. Victoria had learned it in a wheelchair while hiding from grief. And Emma had somehow known it all along. Sometimes the best things in life come from desperate choices made in dark moments. Sometimes the contracts we sign to survive become the foundations for something worth living for. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough and brave enough and stubborn enough to keep trying, the family you build from nothing becomes everything you never knew you needed. That was the story Logan would tell Emma someday when she was old enough to understand it. Not a fairy tale, not a romance novel. Just the truth about two broken people who found each other at rock bottom and decided that maybe, just maybe, broken together was better than perfect alone.